Chapter 251. First, White River City's 100,000 demon army suffered heavy casualties. Next, Lin and Huang aristocratic families and many other huge forces fought against each other. The northern land's flowing worlds fought intensely, and the world was turned upside down. The old forces fell one after another, and famous experts fell like rain. The northern land ushered in the most chaotic era of reshuffling. In the forest, on a piece of land covered in withered grass, a mound suddenly appeared and burst open. A figure broke out of the ground. The figure landed on the ground like a pangolin. Next, the pangolin shook its body and revealed Shun Lian's figure. Lin and Huang aristocratic families really know how to play. Shun Lian looked at the distant Chihua Basin. The buildings on the surface were all destroyed, deeply sunken. Thousands of years old ancient buildings were destroyed along with them, and not even a trace of them was left behind. The northern land's largest primeval water river has been destroyed. The aristocratic family's overall strength will definitely decline greatly, and their glory will no longer exist. The sects will only dominate a region and settle down in a corner. Among all the human forces, the obstacles that can stop me are basically eliminated. Shun Lian grinned. His smile was mixed with ambition and unstoppable domineering aura. At this moment, his mind moved, and he suddenly turned his head. He saw a dark-skinned man with a slightly coarse appearance, appearing 10 meters away like a ghost. He stared at Shun Lian with a gloomy expression. This person looked stupid at first glance, but if one looked closely, they would discover that his eyes were shining with wisdom. A trace of faintly discernible, dangerous aura shrouded over, causing Shun Lian to frown slightly. "Who are you? Did you kill Jian Xiemo?" The dark-skinned man was Bailey Xingshu, Family Huang's #1 think tank. He raised his bloody hand, and a goo appeared. This goo was like a pond, and the water was black as ink. A cloud of smoke floated above the ink pond, shining in all sorts of colors, and was extremely beautiful. It was the famous wash ink goo. This goo was extremely mystical, and as the name suggests, it could blur and eliminate all traces. Shun Lian thought for a while. After infiltrating the family Lin, he only killed one person, a goo master that he had never seen before. He killed that person because Shun Lian found out that the other party was plotting against Lin Licheng. "Who is this guy? How does he know that I killed him?" Shun Lian thought to himself. He maintained his composure and flatly denied, "I don't understand what you're talking about. I just happened to pass by this place and heard the earth-shaking roar. I'm just an outsider who came to take a look." Bailey Xingshu said coldly, "You didn't kill Jian Shima. Why do you have his ink mark on your body?" Shun Lian was shocked and quickly looked at his body. Where was the ink stain? "The ink marks left by Jian Shima are colorless and odorless. You can't see them." Bailey Xingshu sneered. "I have always been meticulous. I predicted that once Family Lin was forced into a dead end, they would do anything in desperation. They would rather destroy the Yuan Shui river vein than leave it to Family Huang. And there was only one person in Family Lin who could easily do this, and that was Lin Licheng. Thus, I spent a lot of effort and finally instigated a retainer of Family Lin. This person was Jian Shima. His wash ink goo was the nemesis of Lin Licheng's explosive flame divine ability. It could wash away Lin Licheng's explosive flame talisman and prevent it from exploding. With Jian Shima stopping Lin Licheng, even if he couldn't defeat Lin Licheng, he could stall for enough time for Family Huang. As long as Family Huang's army arrives, they will be able to control the largest Yuan Shui river vein in the north. However, when Jian Shima followed Lin Licheng to the furnace of bloodline inheritance, you killed him. Not only did you ruin my plan, you also buried more than 15,000 Family Huang subordinates alive." His reasoning was meticulous and accurate. Shun Lian understood and curled his lips. "If that's the case, the person I killed should be Jian Shima. You are from Family Huang, right?" Bailey Xingshu raised his chin slightly. "I am indeed the insignificant Mr. Accountant of Family Huang, Bailey Xingshu." "Who are you?" Calling himself insignificant, his tone was full of pride. Shun Lian smiled and said, I am Shun Lian, the future king of the North. I came to Chihua Basin, this time, to destroy Family Lin's Yuan, Shui, river vein, and weaken the power of the aristocratic families in preparation for the future unification of the North. I killed Jian Shima by accident. It was only because I found out that Lin Licheng was going to destroy the Yuan Shui river vein, which coincided with my plan, so I secretly helped him. You are Shun Lian. Bailey Xingshu's breathing suddenly stopped, and his expression changed greatly. His eyes flashed continuously, and a moment later, he showed a look of realization, as if he understood the whole story. No wondering Muyu and his yellow ox suddenly came to Chihua Basin. It was all because of you. So, not only are you confident in defeating Ing Muyu, but you even took the opportunity to use Ing Muyu to destroy the major forces one by one, paving the way for the future hegemony. Brilliant! I admire you. Bailey Xingshu laughed, and his killing intent was wanton. You ruined my plan and delayed Family Huang's hegemony. Today, I must kill you, you arrogant person, and take the king's jade as compensation. Only then can I vent my hatred. Bailey Xingshu's mouth tightened as he stepped forward, and a bright light suddenly condensed in his palm. As he clenched his 5 fingers, a silver light sword appeared out of thin air. The light was sacred, and the sword burst out millions of rays of light. Shun Lian narrowed his eyes slightly, feeling that the sword was both real and illusory, but it gave people a great sense of oppression. Cut! Bailey Xingshu pressed down with his sword, and the sword light flashed, but it was silent. The sword move was also very simple, just cutting from top to bottom, and the cold sword light covered. What a dangerous aura! Shun Lian had never seen such a strange sword light, and could not help but be 120% alert. In an instant, the sky-devouring sword came out of his sleeves and blocked. At the same time, the snow spirit's sword flashed out with the immortal soul in the sword, and the flying sword whistled and stabbed. Puff! Blood splattered. Shun Lian's face was as calm as water. He looked at his almost broken right arm and suddenly retreated. This was the most serious injury he had ever suffered since he started his career. At the moment when the sword light crossed, Bailey Xingshu's silver light sword directly passed through the sky-devouring sword and cut Shun Lian's right arm, and then brought out a ray of blood. Bailey Xingshu's eyes reflected a cold light, and he calmly retracted his sword to block. The sword light was swung away, and the snow spirit sword let out a painful groan, and the light dimmed. Obviously, it was badly injured. The snow spirit sword shakily returned to Shun Lian's side, and the immortal soul shouted, Bailey Xingshu is holding an invisible sword, and the physical sword can't beat it. An invisible sword, and it will hurt when touched. Shun Lian's eyes twitched. He couldn't understand. His body was half human and half demon, and it was invulnerable. However, Bailey Xingshu's sword almost cut off his arm. What kind of existence was the invisible sword? Bailey Xingshu was also surprised that his sword didn't cut off Shun Lian's arm. This was something that had never happened before. What made him even more surprised was that the wound on Shun Lian's arm healed at a speed visible to the naked eye, and it was healed in an instant. Shun Lian, you are indeed extraordinary. Bailey Xingshu couldn't help but take a deep breath and sneered, Unfortunately, you don't understand the power of wisdom. As soon as he finished speaking, he flashed out like an arrow that had left the bowstring and approached Chen Shi. His invisible sword swung in a circle and transformed into a circle of swords that enveloped Chen Shi and attacked. The power of wisdom? Shun Lian frowned slightly and teleported to the back of Bailey Xingshu and punched. Teleportation? Bailey Xingshu sneered. Suddenly, barbs appeared on his back, and they were all sharp, invisible swords. However, in the next moment, his smile froze on his face. This was because Shun Lian suddenly opened his palm, and a mysterious rune faintly floated in the center of his palm. He pressed down with an earth-shattering force. Bang! The invisible swords penetrated Shun Lian's palm, and his flesh was badly mutilated. The huge force hit Bailey Xingshu, causing him to be severely injured. He coughed out a mouthful of blood, and his face was as pale as paper. Shun Lian pressed down with his palm, pressing Bailey Xingshu to the ground. He counted silently in his heart. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. At this moment, Bailey Xingshu finally caught his breath. With a roar, the invisible swords on his back suddenly grew. Shun Lian's chest was immediately pierced by more than 10 invisible swords, and his chest was pierced through. The two were stuck in a deadlock like this. Bailey Xingshu breathed roughly and sneered. "You have lost. My great wisdom sword has already destroyed your organs." Great wisdom sword? Shun Lian showed a look of realization. "You are indeed a master of raising wisdom path Gu." Bailey Xingshu sneered. "My great wisdom appears to be stupidity Gu, seizes all the wisdom in the world, and uses wisdom as a sword to cut down all foolish living beings." Hearing this, Shun Lian's eyes shined brightly, and he exclaimed, "So wisdom path Gu can be used like this? Amazing." Bailey Xingshu could not help but feel proud. That is natural. Wisdom path Gu uses its powerful intelligence to suppress all living beings. Many people only think that wisdom is a picture in a book, a flash of inspiration in the mind, but they do not know that wisdom can have a physical form and can be seen and touched. My great wisdom sword is the crystallization of my wisdom. It ignores any defense and directly destroys the target's body. This is the power of wisdom. It can destroy a physical form with formlessness. Smart people are the strongest people. Shun Lian, what rank is your great wisdom? Appears to be stupidity Gu. Gold ranked, level 9. Bailey Xingshu laughed foolishly, thinking highly of himself. My great wisdom sword is incomparably powerful. It can easily suppress a gold-ranked level 10 Gu master, and is not at a disadvantage even when fighting against a legendary Gu master. In this world, the only wisdom path Gu that can match my great wisdom appears to be stupidity Gu are 7 orifices exquisite Gu, wisdom close to demon bone, resourceful Gu, and a few others. The Gu that can restrain wisdom path Gu are extremely rare. There are only 100 secret slip Gu and 1,000 considerations slip Gu. Shun Lian laughed. Have you thought about why you are so talkative? Bailey Xingshu blinked and laughed foolishly. I've always been talkative. Seeing this, Shun Lian slowly let go of the hand that was pressing on Bailey Xingshu's back. Immediately, the word stupid appeared. He pushed Bailey Xingshu away and pulled out the sword of great wisdom that was stuck in his body. Next, Shun Lian snatched the great wisdom sword from Bailey Xingshu's hand and looked at it carefully. His military strategy, Gu, started to work intensely, accelerating its thinking and analyzing. A moment later, Shun Lian raised his head and sighed. Compared to my intelligence-lowering attack, Bailey Xingshu's great wisdom sword is much more brilliant. It pales in comparison. Wisdom path Gu could actually be so terrifying, and military strategy Gu was both a wisdom path Gu and a martial path Gu. It could naturally develop a similar ability, or even better. A moment later, the military strategy Gu's analysis was completed, and Shun Lian's lips curled up, placing his left hand on the great wisdom sword. Military strategy Gu, King of Wisdom. Chapter 252. The great wisdom sword shook intensely, letting out a sharp, buzzing sound. Bailey Xingshu, who was laughing foolishly at the side, twitched his face, and a trace of fear flashed past his eyes, but that trace of fear was quickly swallowed by stupor. Under his gradually stupor gaze, the great wisdom sword struggled intensely for a while before calming down like a deflated balloon, and the sword body started to melt. It was like a scrap metal in a furnace turning into liquid metal. In an instant, the great wisdom sword completely melted and turned into a lump of silver light, rippling in Shun Lian's palm. His gaze flashed, and he revealed a satisfied smile. Bailey Xingshu, your crystallization of wisdom is all mine. Shun Lian was unable to restrain his joy and glanced at the dazed Bailey Xingshu, slowly refining the lump of silver light into his body. Next, he removed the idiot rune on his right palm. Next, the imprint on Bailey Xingshu's back disappeared. The abundant essence, qi, and divine energy stored in the imprint burst out from Bailey Xingshu's body and poured into Shun Lian's body like a tide. Light flashed on the interface. Strategy Gu, gold-ranked, rank 7. Strategy Gu, gold-ranked, rank 8. 2 ranks in a row. Bailey Xingshu, you indeed have a smart brain. Shun Lian was overjoyed. He was simply overjoyed. Bailey Xingshu fell weakly to the ground, his face pale as ash. He looked at Shun Lian in shock, his throat moving as he said in horror, "What did you do to me? How did I? Oh, you actually remembered what happened. You are indeed a smart person." Shun Lian smiled with squinted eyes, his battle intent surging. "You should still have some strength left. Get up and fight again." Bailey Xingshu's eyes flashed with wisdom. He gritted his teeth and got up, quickly condensing a great wisdom sword. At this moment, he was suddenly stunned. The light in Shun Lian's palm rippled slightly. He clenched his 5 fingers, and in an instant, a sword as bright as a crystal appeared out of thin air. It seemed real and illusory at the same time. The body of the sword burst out a magnificent halo like that of a gem. It was even brighter than the great wisdom sword in Bailey Xingshu's hand. Its aura was as majestic as a mountain. Not only did it make people feel the sharpness of its wisdom, it also made them feel the weight of its wisdom. "You!" Bailey Xingshu's eyes widened, and his face was filled with disbelief. Shun Lian exclaimed, "The sword of great wisdom is really powerful. It uses intelligence to injure others. In other words, as long as we are smarter than the other party and have a higher intelligence, we can ignore any defense of the other party and directly destroy their physical body. It is a killing move that uses intelligence to crush others." Bailey Xingshu's hair stood on end. "You also have wisdom path, Gu?" Shun Lian did not say a word. He only waved his hand. Bailey Xingshu saw this, and anger rose in his heart. He charged forward and slashed his sword towards Mount Hua. The silver sword light covered Shun Lian's head. Shun Lian moved lightly and dodged to the side. Bailey Xingshu immediately changed his sword move and slashed horizontally. Shun Lian raised his arm to block it. Swoosh! The sword light cut through Shun Lian's arm. Bailey Xingshu was overjoyed, but at the next moment, he could not smile anymore. The sword only left a shallow wound on Shun Lian's body. Shun Lian nodded. "As expected, my intelligence is higher than yours now. Your great wisdom sword's threat to me is greatly reduced." The great wisdom sword was a divine ability that competed with the difference in intelligence. The greater the difference in intelligence, the stronger the killing power. In life, a smart person could easily play a fool to death. The logic was the same. Bailey Xingshu's scalp turned numb. The threat of death had never been so close to him before. "Don't worry, I won't kill you." Shun Lian suddenly kept the great wisdom sword and stopped fighting. "You are a talent. Regardless of whether you are a friend or an enemy, you will be of great use to me." Hearing this, Bailey Xingshu instantly understood. Because he understood, he could not help but feel a great sense of despair. He was completely dispirited. Shun Lian left casually. After a long, long time, a mountain cannot hold 2 tigers. At the peak of intelligence, there is only one place for one person. Bailey Xingshu gradually recovered from his despair. After taking a few deep breaths, his expression became extremely determined. His eyes reflected a great killing intent. In a land of elephant grave, Shun Lian came to the swamp. Bone Soul Gu. Through telepathy, Shun Lian quickly felt the aura of the Bone Soul Gu. It was 1,000 meters deep in the swamp. "Sorry to keep you waiting, my Bone Soul Gu." Shun Lian looked at the interface, and the Bone Soul Gu appeared again. Bone Soul Gu, gold ranked level 7, God Power, Lord of the Undead, consume 2,000 bewitchment points to evolve Bone Soul Guam to gold ranked level 10. Do you want to evolve? Only 2,000 bewitchment points. Shun Lian was overjoyed. The Bone Soul Gu had refined enough mammoth demon corpses. After accumulating to a certain extent, it would evolve extremely quickly, just like the flame soul goo. Evolve. Shun Lian's mind moved, and the bewitchment points decreased by 2,000. Then, the bone soul goo shook violently, and the interface flashed continuously. Refine all the mammoth demon corpses into my undead and form an undead army. I will be the lord of the undead. Shun Lian waved his hand, and the dark green undead fire spread and covered the sky. The swamp was overturned, and huge mammoth demon corpses broke out of the ground. Keep. Shun Lian waved his hand again, and a huge skull appeared in front of him. It opened its mouth and formed a dark door. It was 100 meters tall, and all the mammoth demon corpses entered the dark door. Next, it's time to confront Ingmuyu. Shun Lian turned into a gust of cold wind and rushed towards a certain direction. The blood in his veins was boiling. Ingmuyu wanted to kill him, but he also wanted to kill Ingmuyu. Whoosh! Lotus Pond Town, cleansing dust villa. A gust of cold wind suddenly descended from the sky and landed on the streets of Lotus Pond Town, causing a commotion. Shun Lian revealed his original form and ignored the gazes of the people around him. He plucked a lotus seed, peeled off a lotus seed, and ate it. Almost at the next moment, the Lotus Sword Lord's body shook and exclaimed, "Shun Lian, he's back." Fei Muyi was shocked. He's back? Why is he back? The Lotus Sword Lord was silent for a moment, and his expression turned solemn. Shun Lian purposely ate a lotus seed and told me that he is back. He is reminding me that Ingmuyu is about to arrive at Lotus Pond Town. Fei Muyi fell into a daze and sighed. This day has finally arrived. I have lost the Judge Gu and cannot help you, but I will go through life and death with you. The Lotus Sword Lord's expression changed slightly. Jing Feibai has dragged out an ignoble existence for many years. To have a friend like you, I can die without regrets. Next, the Lotus Sword Lord found the black-bearded man and the cold-faced youth, saying, "Dingya, by Wuhin, Ingmuyu is about to arrive." Shun Lian walked around Lotus Pond Town 3 times and familiarized himself with the terrain. With a thought, he entered Wushang Inn. He came to a door and knocked. The door opened, and Yin Sanjiu and Yin Yi quickly greeted the gang leader. Shun Lian waved his hand and smiled. "I have something for you to do." Yin Sanjiu quickly said, "We will follow gang leader's instructions." Shun Lian transformed into Ingmuyu's appearance and said, "Later, an old man who looks like this will come. Yin Yi, you have to help me find out his name." Yin Yi nodded shyly. Yin Sanjiu patted his chest, saying, "Easy, my daughter's eyesight is very good. You can see him from afar." Shun Lian said, "Yin Sanjiu, you also have a mission. I want you to take my head." After explaining everything, Shun Lian made the Yin family father and daughter repeat everything. After confirming that there were no mistakes, Shun Lian brought the Yin family father and daughter out of Wushang Inn. Evict. Wushang Inn's entry and exit method was based on where they entered, but once a customer was evicted by the inn owner, the location of the eviction could be determined by the inn owner. Shun Lian was the owner of Wushang Inn. He could bring the customer directly to the place he wanted to go. Of course, after a customer was evicted, they could not stay for 3 days. This meant that the Yin family father and daughter could not return to Wushang Inn immediately. That's Lotus Pond Town. High up in the sky, Ingmuyu stood on Yellow Ox's back and looked down at the wonderful scenery below. My intuition tells me that this is the place that Shun Lian chose for the final battle. He wants to fight me to the death here. Yellow Ox was silent for a while after hearing this. He carefully looked at the layout of Lotus Pond Town and said, "Lotus Pond Town is the territory of the Lotus Sword Lord. Look at those strange lotuses. They're clearly the prototype of the legendary world that the Lotus Sword Lord created. According to this scale, the Lotus Sword Lord's savings are quite abundant." Ingmuyu nodded and muttered, "The Lotus Sword Lord's Lotus Sword Gu is quite interesting. He is also quite daring, actually asking the old man to kill him. He has some confidence." Yellow Ox said, "Shun Lian chose to team up with the Lotus Sword Lord. There are also 2 other Huang Jinggu masters in Clean Dust Manor. It seems that they are planning to fight 4 against 1. How do you want to play?" Ingmuyu laughed heartily. "This is exactly what the old man wants. Go down. Either you get killed in a spectacular fashion, or you start a massacre. The old man will roam unhindered for the rest of his life without regrets. Yellow Ox had an "I knew you would say this" expression as he laughed loudly. Then I will send down the divine lightning of the 9 heavens to cheer you on. Boom! Thunderclap. A bolt of lightning as thick as a water bucket descended from the sky. In an instant, the main street of Lotus Pond Town received a huge impact. Like an earthquake, the houses collapsed and dust billowed, mixed with countless screams. Lotus Sword Lord's expression was grim as he shouted with boundless anger. Ingmuyu, get down here and die. Ingmuyu lightly landed in clean dust manner and said with a smile, Jing Fei Bai, you want the old man to kill you. The old man is here. Lotus Sword Lord was unable to restrain his anger. He held the Lotus Heart's sword and lightly stroked it, his hatred overflowing to the heavens as he said, Ingmuyu, do you still recognize her? Ingmuyu carelessly threw a glance at Ji Hao, then chuckled and said, Tens of years ago, I killed a lotus spirit. I heard that lotus spirit never ate human beings, and even played love games with human men. She had done many good deeds, such as saving lives and healing the wounded. You're not her little lover, are you? The Lotus Sword Mistress gritted her teeth and said, You killed her, separating us from each other forever. The reason I live is to find you for revenge. Ingmuyu shrugged indifferently. Humans and demons are different. You two will not have a happy ending. The old man helped you. How can you repay kindness with enmity? Lotus Sword Lord's eyes almost cracked as he roared, Ingmuyu, today is the day you die. As soon as he finished speaking, the black-bearded brawny man and the cold-faced youth jumped out, the 3 of them standing in a triangular formation. Ingmuyu looked at the 2 of them and said in surprise, the successor of the giant spirit sect, and, haha, it's actually the little bastard that the old man gave birth to. You two also want to take revenge on the old man? Dingye's eyes widened as he angrily cursed. Bastard, you have killed countless people and have no conscience. My master advised you to do more good deeds, so you killed him and dug out his heart to feed it to the dogs. This hatred is absolutely irreconcilable. Ingmuyu curled his lips and said, Your master nagged and nagged, annoying the old man to death. The old man killed him because he wanted to have a good afternoon nap. As for digging out his heart and feeding it to the dogs, he was purely curious about whether the heart of a good person was black or red. In the end, your master's heart was red, but a good person's heart was eaten like a dog's. After the dog finished eating, it licked its lips and even farted loudly. From this, it can be seen that the saying good people get good karma is not nonsense, it's nonsense. Dingye was flustered and exasperated, but Ingmuyu ignored him and turned to his son, smiling as he said, Little bastard, what do you want to say? Bai Wuhan sternly said, Why did you kill my mother? Ingmuyu was silent for a moment. You really want to know? Bai Wuhan, of course. I remember the night before my mother was killed by you. She was very scared. She hugged me and cried nonstop. Later, you came. My mother held my hand and told you that I was your son, but you still killed her. Ingmuyu sighed and said, Actually, your mother was also a goo master. She specialized in the butterfly love flower goo. This goo is a one-time, consumable goo. After using it on someone, that person will fall hopelessly in love with her. Someone was the same as you. In order to kill me, he found your mother and instilled a lot of righteous principles into her, then used her to get close to the old man. After the old man fell for it, he fell in love with your mother. Then your mother started to pretend to be sick. She said only the old man's heart could save her life. So the old man dug out his own heart and brewed medicine for her to eat. When your mother saw that I dug out his heart and did not die, she was very scared. Her plan failed, and she came up with another one. She told me that she was bullied by some legendary demonic goo master, so the old man killed people for her. He kept on killing and killed many legendary demonic goo masters. Your mother gradually ran out of tricks and got pregnant with my child. She repeatedly drank abortion medicine. Speaking of which, you little bastard's life was really tough. You actually managed to survive. Your mother had no choice but to give birth to you. After giving birth to you, Your mother hated you deeply and refused to give you milk, wanting to starve you to death. You often cried loudly. It was the old man who raised you with all his effort. Later, the old man met a strong opponent and was hit by the killer move of the ruthless and heartless Gu, becoming cold-blooded and emotionless. Only then did your mother free herself from her restraints. Chapter 253. You're talking nonsense. Bai Wuhan screamed. He was so angry that his whole body was trembling. Ingmuyu said indifferently, I don't know how much you still remember, but your mother is a lunatic. She thought that she was upholding justice, but she was willing to do anything. She didn't even hesitate to kill her own flesh and blood. In fact, her heart is even more ruthless than the old man's. She doesn't even have the slightest bit of love or affection for you. At this point, Ingmuyu chuckled. You can choose not to believe the old man's words, but the old man has the dream Gu. It can help you enter a dream and remember everything that happened when you were young. When you look at your mother's voice and smile with the eyes of an adult, you will find a lot of bloody truths. Let me ask you, do you dare to try? Bai Wuhan struggled with all his might and roared. Even if my mother is crazy, she was forced by you. You are the source of evil, the abyss of pain. My mother and I, it was all because of you. You deserve to die. Ingmuyu said indifferently, Child, anger and pain are the original sins of the weak. Cursing the strong is the most sorrowful act of the weak. You can't see the truth clearly, and you can't accept the truth. You deceive yourself and live in endless hatred and pain. Every time you wake up from a nightmare, is the person you hate the most really the old man? Do you really think that killing the old man will make you happy? Bai Wuhan gritted his teeth and said word by word, Yes. Of course I'll be happy if I kill you. Ingmuyu sighed. Her expression was as cold as ice. Forget it. The old man has already cast a spell to sever our blood relationship. You have nothing to do with the old man anymore. You are like strangers who are entangled with each other. Good luck to you. Then, Ingmuyu looked around and asked, Where's the Shunlian? The Lotus Sword Lord took a deep breath and said in a low voice, There's no need for Shunlian. The three of us are enough to send you on your way. Do it. Before he could finish his sentence, Ding Ye's aura suddenly surged. His body continued to expand until he was 6 to 7 meters tall. His skin was bronze, and he looked as majestic as an ancient god. Ingmuyu turned a blind eye to it and sneered. It's just a Titan true body and a nondescript level 8 sky crushing fist. The only difference is that it's a little stronger. It's not worth mentioning. Don't worry, it's not over yet. Dingye shouted in a deafening voice. His right hand slowly opened, revealing 2 goo worms. Do you recognize these 2 goo worms? Ingmuyu's expression changed slightly. Dingye laughed loudly. This is the Berserk Goo, and this is the Berserk Goo. Ingmuyu, are my trump cards qualified to make you get serious? Ingmuyu pursed his lips and said plainly, Berserk Goo allows a person to enter a berserk state, greatly increasing their battle strength and lasting for a long time. Berserk Goo allows a person to release all their potential in an instant, entering a berserk state of invincibility. These 2 goo worms are one-time consumable goo worms and are extremely rare and precious. They can allow a person to erupt with strength that surpasses their limits. Using these 2 strength amplification goo worms at the same time can raise your battle strength by at least 10 times, enough to sweep away all gold-ranked rank 10 goo masters, and even pose a great threat to legendary goo masters. However, these 2 goo worms have very obvious flaws. They can make a person lose their rationality and fall into a state of madness, unable to differentiate between friend and foe. If you use these 2 goo worms at the same time, the old man guesses that you will turn into a killing machine without thoughts or soul, berserk beyond compare and unstoppable. Dingya laughed loudly. When a man gets angry, blood splatters everywhere. Ingmuyu, in order to kill you, I am willing to turn into a demon and perish together with you. However, I do not want to harm my friend, so I left a safety measure. Saying so, he opened his left hand, revealing a snow-white pill, This is the icy heart pill. It has the miraculous effect of calming the mind and calming the mind. It is enough to alleviate the side effects of berserk goo and berserk goo, allowing me to maintain a certain level of rationality. Ingmuyu clicked his tongue. So you even prepared such a move. The old man has to admit, I have no choice but to treat you seriously. Dingya laughed heartily and swallowed the icy heart pill. Next, he refined the berserk goo, and his aura rose sharply. His body was over 7 meters tall, and his bronze skin turned red. Awesome. Dingya's expression was distorted and slightly sinister, as if he was enduring great pain. His eyes gradually turned blood red, shooting out a berserk light. Again, berserk goo. Dingya gritted his teeth and refined the berserk goo. In an instant, his whole body trembled violently, and green veins as thick as an arm appeared on his body. His body shrunk inwards, becoming 3 meters tall, and his skin turned dark purple. Chi, chi, chi. His body temperature rose sharply, and the water vapor around him evaporated, causing white smoke to rise from his body. The space around him started to distort slightly. His 5 fingers clenched into a fist, instantly gathering a majestic force. Bang! He spat out a word. Dingy punched out fiercely. Rip! The fist, shrouded in light, directly tore through space, and the real world was shattered like a mirror by his fist, creating a terrifying spatial storm. The brutal force carried with it an aura of destruction, destroying everything in its path. Seeing this, Ingmuyu pursed his lips, and his expression turned serious. His body suddenly rose, and with a shake of his body, he turned into his 3-headed, 8-armed true body. He was also 3 meters tall, and his skin was as plain as stone. Facing Dingya's fist, his 8 arms swept over like iron whips. Boom, boom, boom. In an instant, both sides exchanged dozens of punches, and their fists intertwined rapidly. The light was extremely chaotic, and a terrifying shockwave spread out in all directions. Clean dust villa's walls collapsed, and the towering trees were uprooted. The ground shook like a boat, as if it was the end of the world. In front of a tyrannical force that surpassed the limit, the once indestructible walls became as soft as sand and were swept away like dust. The battle between the true bodies was white-hot from the start. Both sides used their strongest strength to beat each other, and there were no flashy moves. In front of this level of strength, moves were meaningless, and there was only the simplest and most violent physical combat, and only the most impactful killing. What was incomparably terrifying was that they continued to fight like this without holding back for a full 6 hours. But there was still no clear victor. At this time, Ingmuyu suddenly sighed. What a pity it is not your own strength after all. After such a long battle, your body is unable to take it and can't take it anymore. Dingya's fighting spirit was high, and he sneered, I don't expect to defeat you. I'm only responsible for holding you back. Ingmuyu was stunned, and suddenly saw Bai Wuhan holding a crystal skull and muttering some incantations. His eyes flashed, and a few more wrinkles appeared at the corner of his eyes. Don't be distracted, I can still fight for 800 more rounds. Dingya laughed, and did not give Ingmuyu a chance to catch his breath, and continued to attack crazily with his fists. Ingmuyu narrowed his eyes, and said in a regretful tone, After this battle, even if you can survive, you will be a cripple, and there will no longer be a member of the giant spirit sect in this world. Dingya's heart was surging, and he had no regrets, and said loudly, It is worth it to get rid of a scourge like you for the world. Ingmuyu's expression was completely indifferent, and his hands moved in front of him, and suddenly, an incomparably huge crescent-shaped blade light slashed across Dingya's chest. Puff! Dingya retreated 3 steps and looked at the wound that extended from his chest to his abdomen. Blood was flowing out, and he took a deep breath. The power of berserk transformation activated his body to the extreme, and the wound instantly stopped bleeding and healed. Ingmuyu was merciless and attacked with the crescent-shaped blade light. Dingya roared, and used the rank 8 heaven collapsing fist and shattered the crescent-shaped blade light with one punch. Spatial-type killer moves are also useless. Ingmuyu was calm, as usual, and his footsteps were steady as he approached. If one strike is not enough, then 2 strikes will be enough. The crescent-shaped blade light split into 2, and then into 4, and turned into layers of Dao heroes that enveloped Dingye. Kill! Dingye's pressure increased sharply. After such a long battle, his body was indeed unable to bear the burden, and the power that he had gained through Berserk transformation was like a drain on a pond, and was rapidly draining his life essence. However, his gaze became brighter and brighter, because under his indiscriminate attacks, Ingmuyu had no choice but to use even more power, and was forced to the edge of legendary realm. It was no different from being forced to a dead end. At a certain moment, Ingmuyu took a deep breath, and his body suddenly emitted a lustrous light, and one could see that there was a thin layer of light film covering his body. It was like an illusory veil. That is the world of legendary Gu Masters. Dingye's spirit immediately rose. He had finally forced Ingmuyu to reveal his world. As long as he could break that light film, he would be able to enter Ingmuyu's world and truly touch Ingmuyu's body and cause true damage. Indeed, this was the most terrifying aspect of legendary Gu Masters. They had created their own world and were completely isolated from the real world, and any impact would be blocked by the world's barrier. Because of this, no matter how powerful a gold rank Gu Master's attacks were, as long as they could not break through their world's barrier, they would not be able to harm them. Ordinary legendary Gu Masters did not have a firm world barrier, and because of the killing tribulation, they suppressed their realm to gold rank 10 to participate in battles, and the battle strength they could display was actually lower than those gold rank 10 Gu Masters. Ingmuyu was different. He was too strong. Even if he suppressed his realm to gold rank 7 or 8, he could still defeat most of the gold rank 10 Gu Masters in the world. He was truly a terrifying monster. Dingye paid a huge price, and finally forced Ingmuyu to reveal his true strength. Right at this moment, Dingye, I am ready. Bai Wuhan suddenly shouted, holding the crystal skull in his hand. Good. I will open the path for you. Dingye took a deep breath, and a blood-red light suddenly appeared on his body, as blood flowed out of his eyes, and his whole person went into a complete berserk state. At this moment, Dingye completely released the power of Berserk Gu and Berserk Gu, turning into a killing machine without a trace of rationality. Another one driven mad by an old man, Ingmuyu was speechless. Dingye pounced over while his fists descended like the rain, and they blasted out violently. They continuously struck onto the light barrier on the surface of Ingmuyu's body, and the force of his fists was unprecedentedly formidable to the point Ingmuyu was actually overwhelmed and didn't have the slightest strength to fight back. Crack! Suddenly, Chapter 254, Ingmuyu's world barrier, cracked open. At this time, Dingye had also used up all of his life essence. His whole body shriveled up like a deflated balloon. From the once strong and burly black-bearded man, he had turned into a skinny cripple with white hair at his temples. Just like what Ingmuyu said, Berserk Gu and Berserk Gu were too fierce after draining Dingye dry. He would be crippled even if he didn't die. Dingye, well done. Seeing this scene, Bai Wuhan was deeply moved. His 5 fingers moved quickly, and he immediately crushed the crystal skull. Soon after, a dense dark green smoke was emitted. Divine ability, pain, contagion. My pain is your pain. Bai Wuhan's expression was agitated. The dark green smoke was like an evil spirit, rolling towards Ingmuyu and quickly entering through the crack in the light barrier. Even though the cracked light barrier recovered in the blink of an eye, Bai Wuhan took advantage of this moment. Ingmuyu was immediately surrounded by the dark green smoke. It was like someone had breathed out smoke into a white wine bottle. The smoke lingered. What was even stranger was that Ingmuyu seemed to have no way of dealing with this dark green smoke. He could only watch as the dark green smoke rapidly seeped into his body. Feel my pain. For the past 20 years, I have been taking poison. I have tasted countless types of poisons, mixing them into an incurable poison in my body. For the past 20 years, I have been harming myself every day. The accumulated injuries on my body are beyond your imagination. For the past 20 years, I've been alone, enduring endless loneliness, sorrow, and distress, feeling all kinds of suffering in the world. All of the accumulated pain, all for this moment, I have poured it all into your body. Bai Wuhan's expression was somewhat complicated. There was no pain or happiness, nor was there any sense of relief. It was hard to describe. Black blood seeped out of the corner of his mouth. He slowly fell down. His black hair instantly turned white as snow. His whole person was like a dead person. It was obvious that he had paid a huge price to use this ability. Ingmuyu's lips curled up as she took a deep breath, saying, "So you are a goo that absorbs damage, storing damage, and then transferring it to others." He sighed. "The old man feels sorry for you for doing such a meaningless thing for 20 years. In 20 years, you can make friends and experience what friendship is. You could get married and have children. You can experience what love and family is. You can do great things and understand what a sense of accomplishment is. However, for the past 20 years, you have embarked on the most lamentable and boring path in the world, playing the game of revenge. Do you know that the old man has never hated anyone? Resentment only haunts the weak, and you are the most pathetic of the weak." Bai Wuhan smiled bitterly and said, "It's too late for you to say anything. My pain can't be eliminated. You can only bear the immense pain and damage for 20 years. Ingmuyu grinned and said, "How old is the old man? 20 years of your life is nothing to the old man. Your pain is insignificant." Bai Wuhan sneered, "Is that so? My pain hasn't completely erupted yet." "Oh, then what are you waiting for?" Ingmuyu said. Suddenly, her expression froze as she subconsciously raised her head to look at the sky. In the sky, the Lotus Sword Lord was standing in the air, holding the Lotus Heart Sword. His eyes were closed, and his expression was calm. At this moment, he opened his eyes. Lotus Pond Town below was almost completely destroyed. Thick smoke billowed as countless citizens fled in all directions. The situation was too horrible to look at. Lotus Sword Lord looked at this scene. Seeing the Lotus Pond Town that he had managed for so many years being destroyed, his eyes reflected great sorrow. "Ingmuyu, you must die." Lotus Sword Lord shouted as he waved his sword. Light surged on the sword, and in an instant, all the lotuses in Lotus Pond Town withered at a speed visible to the naked eye. In an instant, the Lotus Heart Sword shone brightly. At the same time, the Lotus Heart Sword grew in the wind and turned into an incomparably huge sword. It was like a straight and majestic mountain, about 300 feet long and 50 feet wide. It was so thin that it seemed to have no thickness. It stood tall and hovered in the air, the tip of the sword pointing at Ingmuyu. Compared to the huge sword in the sky, Ingmuyu was like an ant. "This is really interesting." Ingmuyu's eyes flashed. Before he could do anything, he felt a terrifying weight on his body. The ground under his feet cracked open and his body sank straight down. The huge Lotus Heart Sword began to sink. The sword light was bright and resplendent. Even the clouds floating in the sky were dyed bright and dazzling. It was like a gorgeous brocade. Every time the Lotus Heart Sword sank, the weight on Ingmuyu's body increased. It was an extremely sharp sword light violently attacking Ingmuyu's world. "I'm going to crush your legendary world bit by bit." Lotus Sword Lord's expression was cold, and his voice was very cold. Suddenly, Bai Wuhan shouted, "My pain explode!" Suddenly, Ingmuyu's expression became distorted. The lustrous light film on his body flickered and dimmed. With a crack, the world cracked again. Lotus Sword Lord was overjoyed and pressed down on the Lotus Heart Sword with all his strength. "Kill!" Bai Wuhan also shouted, "Kill him!" Ingmuyu knelt on the ground with one knee. He was in a difficult situation and was on the verge of collapse. At this time, he heard soft footsteps and quickly turned his head to look. He saw Shan Lian holding a bunch of lotus seeds in his hand and eating them leisurely. Ingmuyu's eyes lit up and a look of panic flashed across his face. He said coldly, "You brat, You're finally willing to show yourself. What, do you want to join in the fight? Aren't you ashamed of ganging up to bully an old man like me? Shun Lian ate the lotus seeds and shrugged. Taking advantage of others is indeed the best strategy, but it's completely useless against you. Instead, I'll fall into your trap and be at a disadvantage. Don't worry, I won't sneak attack you. Stop pretending and end the battle quickly. Ingmuyu laughed and said speechlessly, Don't I act like an old man? I've already knelt down, but I still can't lure you into a trap. Aren't you a little too smart? Hearing this, Lotus Sword Lord's expression changed greatly. How could he not understand that Ingmuyu was pretending to be injured? He did not care about him, Bai Wuhan, and Dingya at all. He had been waiting for Shun Lian to show himself. At the next moment, Ingmuyu abruptly stood up, standing upright. The massive lotus flower sword started to tremble uncontrollably. Ingmuyu's expression was cold. He raised his hand and pinched the tip of the lotus sword. He said coldly, Jing Fei Bai, your fetish is really perverted. It's fine if you like this lotus spirit, but you don't even let go of her corpse. Don't you feel disgusted holding her all day long? Old man, I'll kindly help you. Ingmuyu exerted strength in his hand. With a crisp crack, the lotus heart sword broke into pieces and fell to the ground. It was directly crushed. Lotus Sword Lord coughed up a big mouthful of blood and fell from the sky. He smashed through the roof and fell into the shed. Jing Fei Bai, Fei Muyi let out a heart-wrenching roar and hurriedly rushed over. Bai Wuhan was completely dumbfounded. He screamed, Why? You clearly got infected by my pain contagion. Ingmuyu only curled his lips. Shun Lian spoke for him. He mentioned earlier that your mother asked him to dig out his heart to save her life. He dug out his heart, but didn't die. Have you ever thought about why? Bai Wuhan asked blankly why. Shun Lian looked at Ingmuyu and said with a smile, I'm also very curious about what kind of goo it is. It has such a terrifying healing effect. If you're not afraid of leaking the secret, why don't you tell us? Ingmuyu smiled and said, There's no harm in telling you. 300 years ago, the old man met an extraordinary person. He lived a very happy life and lived a very long life. He had never gotten sick in his life. He often said that a smile makes you 10 years younger. Happiness is the best medicine in the world. After the old man heard of his story, he concluded that he had a strange goo on him and went to find him. As expected, he had the happiness goo. This goo was born from his body. The old man was very excited and naturally wanted to obtain the happiness goo. However, the happiness goo was very strange. If the owner of this goo had unhappy emotions, it would pollute the happiness goo and turn happiness into sadness. Thus, the old man could not directly snatch this goo. Thus, I made a contract with that extraordinary person. As long as I could make him happy until he died, he would give me the happiness goo. In the following 6 years, the old man spent countless efforts telling jokes to that person, sending beautiful women, even snatching a princess and giving her to him. He even gave him gold, silver, jewels, and so on. In short, he let that person live a happy life. I won't hide it from you. That person died with a smile. If a person could live so happily, they could die without regrets. Thus, the old man obtained the happiness goo. Coincidentally, the old man had been living happily all this time. Happiness is the best medicine. It made the old man immune to all diseases and poisons. Even if he was injured, he would be fine with a smile. Bai Wuhan heard this, and his eyes rolled back as he fainted, foaming at the mouth. He fainted from anger. Ingmuyu was speechless. This little bastard is too stubborn. Back then, the old man did not kill him and gave him to a rich family to raise. He hoped that he could live a good life. Even if it was a little ordinary, it would still be very good. Who would have thought that he would know how to hold grudges at such a young age? His hatred is monstrous. He is simply incurable. Shun Lian's gaze flashed. You are indeed not a heartless person. You still remember that father-son relationship and gave him a beautiful life. Unfortunately, he only has his mother in his eyes. Ingmuyu chuckled and said, Such heart-attacking words can't shake this old man. Shun Lian was speechless. I am sincerely praising you. Don't give me that. Ingmuyu rolled his eyes. How do you want to fight? Just say it. Chapter 255. Ing Muyu's eyes lit up as he said, "Last time when you and I entered the dream to fight, you suddenly released the corpse of the undead at the last moment and caught the old man off guard. The old man learned from his mistakes and was naturally prepared. Are you sure you want to start from here?" Shun Lian chuckled. "Hearing you say that, it seems like I'm looking for death." Ing Miyu squinted his eyes slightly and advised him, "When you fight with the old man, it's best not to set any rules or restrictions for yourself. Just go all out." "You don't mean what you say." Shun Lian pursed his lips, and his expression became serious. "Many people have used all sorts of methods to defeat you, but they still can't do anything to you. From this, I've come to a conclusion." "Oh." Ing Muyu raised his eyebrows. Shun Lian took a deep breath and said firmly, "Only the truly powerful can defeat you. Other than that, there's no other way." Ing Muyu was stunned for a moment, then suddenly laughed out loud. "That's a true insight. Don't blame the old man for being too honest. Those people's so-called schemes and tricks, insidious and cunning, schemes and plots, vicious and ruthless, righteous and awe-inspiring, and all kinds of crazy actions, are actually the old man's leftovers. They're not worth mentioning. Only the truly powerful can be a match for the old man. There are many people who understand this, but unfortunately, they still underestimated your strength." Shun Lian licked his lips, and an endless desire to fight burned in his eyes. "You're the best whetstone for me to conquer the world." Shun Lian's eyes flashed as he slowly raised his hand. In an instant, a white flame surged out of his palm. It swayed and burned, illuminating his face and making it look a little scary. Then, a fist-sized ball of hellfire spewed out and landed on the ground. The white flame danced and burned wantonly as if it was dancing. The ground turned white and quickly froze. Ing Muyu's eyes focused. Suddenly, a huge corpse of a mammoth rushed out of the small flame. Instantly, the aura of decay, coldness, and death mixed together and spread out. The mammoth demon's corpse, which was close to 100 meters tall, was extremely huge. Every step it took shook the heavens. Dust rose up violently, and the earth shook. Whoosh! The corpse of the mammoth spewed out a large amount of frosty white smoke, as if it was breathing. Its eyes were burning with undead flames as it stared at Ing Muyu. Then it raised its gigantic tusks and charged forward. Ing Muyu's pupils shrunk. She clicked her tongue and exclaimed, "You actually managed to evolve an undead-type goo to this extent. Where did you find so many corpses? This is a mammoth demon, right? Could it be that you found an elephant grave?" While speaking, Ing Muyu unhurriedly flipped her hand and took out a musical instrument. It was a silver instrument, and she started to beat it rhythmically. Along with the wonderful melody, the whole world suddenly rippled, and the scene changed greatly. Countless flowers bloomed on the ground, competing with each other in beauty. The distant mountains were as black as ink, the flowing water was flowing, and bees and butterflies were frolicking in groups. The scenery was too beautiful to be imagined. Everywhere was filled with peace and serenity, making people feel relaxed and happy. It was as if they had flown into heaven, away from all suffering and only immersed in endless happiness. Shun Lian's heart trembled. The corpse of the mammoth that was charging forward suddenly slowed down. The undead flames, burning crazily in its eyes, were extinguished. Its body disintegrated with a series of cracking sounds, turning into dust and scattering everywhere. Soul, subduing goo, transcendence of the undead. Ing Muyu grinned and purposely put on an ugly expression, which made people hate him so much that their teeth hurt. As Ing Muyu stopped beating the silver instrument, the fantastic scenery also disappeared, as if it had never appeared. Amazing! Shun Lian was calm and composed as he clapped. "Everything has its counter. No matter what goo we have, there will always be another goo that can counter it." He paused for a moment. "We cannot change this iron law. We can only try to strengthen the goo we have, so that they will not be so easily countered. Freezing 3 feet of ice, setting the prairie ablaze. Who wins and who loses will be very interesting." Ing Muyu heard this, and her expression turned serious, her gaze shining. "It seems that you still have some tricks up your sleeve, old man. Let's wait and see." Shun Lian chanted softly. "Believe in darkness, be loyal to evil, thirst for power, yearn for rule, flow with rotten blood, pursue endless degeneration. The undying undead are eternal." Shun Lian opened his arms, and the bone-white underworld fire under his feet erupted like a volcano, burning wantonly towards the distance, covering the sky and earth. Lord of the Undead, summoning Death Knell Town. The underworld fire burned fiercely, spewing towards the sky. The sky was like a painting that was burning, and from the scattering ashes, a door of darkness appeared faintly, towering over the sky and earth, shaking the world. Wherever the white flames swept, everything was burned, turning into ashes. The ashes fluttered about, covering the sky and the sun. From the endless aura of corruption, from the abyss of death, a forgotten town rose up. "This is..." Ingmuyu was deeply moved. Even his breathing stopped. The flames flowed past him like a flood, but did not make any contact with him, and the surrounding space was already engulfed by the sea of flames. In a daze, Ingmuyu suddenly realized that he had been pulled out of the real world and was placed in a sinister alternate space. So you opened up a space for the undead, and in the space for the undead, you materialized your mental world and created Death Knell Town. Ingmuyu was shocked, and an interesting and novel expression appeared on his face. The old man had fought with undead-type goo masters before, but this is the first time I have seen a divine ability like yours, which can directly open up a space for the undead and create a door of darkness. This was not the end. The undead space was still evolving. The burning sky turned into a pure black curtain of night. The cold blood-red moon shone on the scattered tombstones, engraved with blurry names. White flames burned everywhere, sobbing like the cries of ghosts, calling out the names of the dead. The small town's dilapidated walls were mottled with bloodstains, and the fields outside the town were filled with the lingering color of death. Dong, wind blew, and the copper bell that was full of holes shook crazily, letting out a long and strange sound, cold and lonely, like the ravings of the death god. Far away, a bugle horn sounded, and the undead army charged. Only death can prove your existence. Only fresh blood can warm your lifeless bodies. Only slaughter can make you remember the taste of living. Only the battlefield of blood and fire can prove your faith. The skeleton throne that looked like an ice sculpture rose up, and Shun Lian sat on the throne, waving his hand forward. "I am the Lord of the Undead, the greatest blasphemer. Lowly undead, use blood and death to please your master." Tens of thousands of mammoth demon corpses charged forward, trampling on the ground, and everywhere they passed, the cold aura of death spread and invaded. "This number is too much." Ingmuyu's lips twitched, and confirmed that Shun Lian had definitely found an ancient elephant grave and plundered the corpses that had been stored for tens of thousands of years. The huge walking undead charged forward one after another, and each of them was incomparably brutal, comparable to a berserk Dingya. This meant that he was going to fight against tens of thousands of Dingya. What a big move. The more he plays, the bigger it gets. Ingmuyu felt a chill in his heart, and could not help but think of the huge explosion that he had encountered in the Fire Chi Basin, which was at the level of destruction. If he was trampled on by tens of thousands of mammoth demons, even a legendary monster like him would not be able to withstand it. Luckily, the old man was prepared. Ingmuyu took out a flute, put it to his mouth, and started playing. The sound of the flute gradually became louder, and the rhythm was melodious, moving people's hearts. Soul-subduing parasite, song of peace. In the strange melody, there was a mysterious magic power, and the undead space seemed to be gently swaying in the light waves. Crack, crack, crack. The dark night sky was like the surface of ice, and the cracks were expanding above their heads. Strange black light overflowed from the torn void following the melody, and descended from the sky. It was like the sunlight penetrating through the forest, turning into beams and shining on the earth. The beams of black light descended and shone on the undead army like arrows leaving the bow. The huge mammoth demon corpses suddenly disintegrated into sand, and under the baptism of the black light, they fell down one by one. However, there were too many mammoth demon corpses, and the undead army could not kill them all. They charged through the black light and continued to close in on Ingmuyu. Undead immortal, death god lives forever. At this time, Shun Lian, who was sitting on the undead throne, clenched his fists, and even more hellfire erupted from the ground, engulfing everything like a flood, attaching to the undead army's body and condensing into an ice armor. The huge mammoth demon corpses immediately looked even more majestic, and the aura of death was heavy. At the same time, the black light raised damage to the undead army was greatly reduced. The white flames rushed into the dark night sky and froze the torn void. The expanding cracks gradually stopped and started to heal. Seeing this, Ingmuyu's expression turned serious, and he sighed. The power of the undead is indeed difficult to deal with. I need to use my true strength. He kept the flute. Skin painting goo, transformation. Ingmuyu took out a piece of human skin and wore it. He shook his body and turned into an old monk with a benevolent expression. He clasped his hands together and chanted Buddha's name. Umitbot, soul, subduing goo, purify all living beings. The old monk bemoaned the state of the universe and pitied the fate of mankind, and a powerful aura suddenly burst out from his body. His whole body emitted millions of benevolent holy light, and he sincerely chanted towards the undead army. The dead are like this. The souls return to rest and peace. Buddha is merciful, nirvana. As the old monk continued to chant, his body grew bigger, and he became huge, and his light shone brightly. The irritable mammoth demon corpses seemed to have obtained some kind of peace and slowed down their pace and lowered their heads towards the old monk as if they were worshipping him. Seeing this, Shun Lian's lips curled into a playful smile, and he said, "So the soul-subduing goo is a Buddhist-type goo, and only Buddhists can unleash the strongest power of this goo." The old man smiled warmly and replied, "This human skin belonged to the legendary Buddhist holy monk Great Master Le Yuan. The old man fought with him for 9 days and 9 nights before he killed him. He peeled off his skin and stored it away in case of an emergency. Because some goo are not compatible with the old man's nature, they can only unleash their strongest killing moves by borrowing the skin of others." Shun Lian gritted his teeth. "So that's it, I understand now. Your inheritance goo can obtain many powerful goo, and when you use the skin painting goo to peel off the skin, you will be able to unleash the strongest killing move of any goo you obtain." Chapter 256. Don't be so smug. Shun Lian chuckled coldly, calm and composed. Goo had all kinds of forms. Goo masters were the same. Everyone was walking on their own path of evolution, finding a way to make themselves stronger. You have a trump card. So do I. Shun Lian seemed to have boundless confidence. Ingmuyu was slightly stunned. At this moment, he suddenly lowered his head. His pupils shrunk. He saw a cute snow-white rabbit, unknowingly, jumping to the old monk's feet. Rabbit? Ingmuyu was puzzled. How could a living creature appear in the death spirit space? In the next moment, the little rabbit jumped to the old monk's feet. Instantly, endless cold air invaded the old monk's body. His skin was quickly covered in a layer of frost, freezing and cracking. His body was so stiff that he could not move. What is this thing? Ingmuyu was shocked. The terrifying cold air invaded his body. The old monk's awe-inspiring might did not last for more than 3 seconds. His skin actually cracked and disappeared. This made Ingmuyu completely unable to believe it. Shun Lian crossed his legs and sat on the death spirit throne, calm and unruffled, calmly saying, "This thing is called Grieving Jade Rabbit. It is my pet, isn't it cute? Cute my ass, it should be terrifying." Ingmuyu was speechless. A trace of panic flashed across his face. He quickly shouted, "Fire!" The blazing heaven-burning flames burned fiercely, engulfing the grieving jade rabbit. However, the old monk's skin was still cracking inch by inch, from the bottom of his feet to the top of his head. The blazing flames could not get rid of the frost energy. It was irreversible. Ingmuyu was extremely puzzled. His gaze flickered a few times, suddenly understanding. Grieving Jade Rabbit not only contains endless cold spring energy, it can also trigger sorrowful emotions, and the more sorrowful it is, the stronger the cold energy and the stronger the killing power. Ingmuyu was extremely speechless. Unfortunately, Great Master Lu Yuan was merciful at heart. After being skinned after his death, he was naturally sadder. The sorrowful Jade Rabbit happened to be his nemesis. Even the raging flames of the burning heavens could not save it. Shun Lian clapped his hands and laughed heartily. You have the happy goo, which happens to be the nemesis of the sorrowful Jade Rabbit. But in order to use the soul-subduing goo's strongest killer move, you had no choice but to transform into a benevolent old monk. Thus, the sorrowful Jade Rabbit became your nemesis in the blink of an eye. Switching between offense and defense, the opportunity is fleeting and fleeting, truly wonderful. He could not help but laugh loudly. Do you know, when you told me you had happiness goo, I thought Grief Jade Rabbit would not have a chance to show itself, and the trump card I prepared for you was destroyed before it even showed itself. I had never expected you to become a monk halfway through. Ba. Ingmuyu's expression was extremely interesting. He felt like he had shot himself in the foot. He muttered, "This is big trouble." The old monk's skin quickly cracked. Ingmuyu's body was exposed. And at this time, the undead army woke up from their daze. Immediately bursting with hysterical fury, they charged forward and trampled mercilessly, colliding head-on. Burning heavens goo, hellfire! Ingmuyu had already lost the initiative. He could no longer remain calm. He used all his strength to display his powerful divine ability. His body was instantly surrounded by a flaming storm. It had the power to burn the heavens. It was extremely terrifying. After that, his hands fluttered as he struck out numerous crescent-shaped saber lights, and they interweaved into a sharp and vast saber light before him. The saber light combined with the raging flames to transform into a terrifying flaming saber that slashed out towards Chun-Shi. A killer move combining space-type blade light and burning heaven's raging flames. It is invincible. There is nothing it cannot break. Ingmuyu's battle intent surged. The corpse of the mammoth demon, which was covered in ice armor, finally closed in. It immediately collided with the dazzling fireblade. For a moment, flames and icicles flew in all directions. The huge corpse disintegrated one after another. Broken limbs and broken walls scattered everywhere like rain. Soul suppression. The frost armor was melted by burning heaven's raging flames. Ingmuyu immediately used soul suppression on the undead corpse. This was equivalent to him using 3 divine abilities at the same time. Such a multitasking was truly unimaginable, as expected of the Golden Kill leader. There was no helping it. The Lord of the Undead symbolized the apocalypse and invincibility. Ingmuyu had never been so serious before. This kind of killing continued on. Shun Lian held his chin. Watching the battle from afar, he looked at Ingmuyu being surrounded by the undead army with a mocking expression. Even a legendary Goom Master's strength has a limit. I want to see how many you can kill. 5,000? 10,000? Shun Lian laughed eerily. Ingmuyu was still unable to use soul suppression goo at full strength. He, who was in the undead space, was being suppressed in all aspects. He was being suppressed. Ingmuyu naturally knew his situation better than anyone else, but his eyes shined with excitement, his blood boiling. After an unknown amount of time, it could be half a day or a day, Ingmuyu was still fighting in high spirits. He did not know fatigue. At this time, he glanced at the leisurely Shun Lian, saying coldly, "You are really in a mood for leisure. This old man is so tired. Why don't you come and play with this old man?" Shun Lian brushed it off with a smile and replied seriously, "I am observing and learning. Your combat experiences is so rich that it makes one gasp in amazement." I am very curious and puzzled. Why can't other legendary Goo masters be as fierce as you? Ingmiyu was multitasking, but could still answer fluently. You know that legendary Goo masters have their own worlds. Then to legendary Goo masters, there are two worlds. One is their own legendary world. The other is the real world. The two worlds are very different. One is a newborn world. The other is mature. Compared to the real world, the legendary world is like a baby facing a giant. It is very weak and cannot expand wantonly. It can only shrink on the surface and strengthen bit by bit, expanding outwards bit by bit. Logically speaking, the two worlds can be connected. This way, legendary Goo masters can refine all kinds of material resources in the real world for their own use, using them to stabilize and strengthen their own legendary world. But this does not work. Otherwise, the resources in the real world would have already been plundered by the legendary Goo masters. They would have dried up, all living beings would not be able to grow, and all living beings would be on the verge of extinction. The reason why it cannot be done is because the legendary Goo masters have a fatal calamity hanging over their heads, and because of the threat of the calamity, the two worlds have to be separated and completely isolated. Thus, legendary Goo masters can only be like thieves, stealing bits and pieces of material from the real world and putting them into their own legendary world. The efficiency is very low, and the time taken is very long. The result is what you can imagine. Legendary Goo masters have become cowards, hiding at the bottom of the water, not even daring to come out. The old man is different. Before the old man advanced to legendary, he had already figured out all kinds of flaws of legendary Goo masters and found a way to resolve them, refining a never-before-seen mystical goo, Balance Goo. Chapter 257. Balance Goo, its full name was World Balance Goo. In order to better understand, Shun Lian imagined a scene in his mind. There were two teacups, one big teacup filled with black tea, and the other small teacup filled with plain water. There was a straw between the two teacups. The black tea in the large teacup flowed through the straw into the small teacup, separating two independent worlds, creating two balanced worlds. After some comprehension, Shun Lian erased the scene in his mind and imagined another scene. In a world of ice and snow, there was a snowman. Think about it. When the sun gradually warmed the earth, how could the snowman protect himself and obtain more snow to strengthen himself? The answer was simple: to create a sealed and cold environment, like a freezer to cover the snowman. Thus, the appearance of the legendary world was like an eggshell with a layer of strange protective membrane. The scene was erased again, and he imagined an endless ocean with many bubbles in the churning seawater, and a koi fish was hidden in one of the bubbles. If the real world is an ocean, then the legendary world is the bubbles in the water. Other people's bubbles cannot be broken, but the bubbles are permeable and can still exchange materials with the outside world. Thus, they have become extremely tired porters. Ingmuyu is different. He opened a small hole in the bubble and can freely transfer materials in. It is easy and convenient, and the small hole can be closed at any time, preventing the bubble from breaking. Shunlian thought for a while and used his mind to create an air bubble, playing with it, sometimes enlarging it to envelop himself, and then shrinking it in his palm. After a while, he finally understood and said seriously, "So this is the legendary world, an eggshell that cannot be broken. Then this protective membrane is the essence of a legendary Goo master. All of a legendary Goo master savings are used to stabilize and strengthen their world barrier." Hearing this, Ingmuyu laughed. Logically speaking, the legendary world is like a house. It doesn't matter if the walls are broken, they can be rebuilt. But once the legendary world is severely damaged, and with a large amount of legendary aura leaking out, it will attract a fatal calamity, and that will be very bad. Shun Lian was puzzled. Is the world barrier of legendary Goo masters easy to break? Ingmuyu chuckled. White, bronze, silver, gold. These four ranks of Goo masters can be collectively called transcendents, while legend Goo masters are transcendents, existences that transcend the real world. According to the sturdiness of the world barrier, legends were also divided into 10 levels. The first level was the white porcelain world, the second level was the black iron world, The third level was the unpolished jade world, and so on. The following levels were platinum, diamond, starlight, exquisite, and so on. The problem was, the world barrier of legendary Goo Masters was very weak. Only by advancing to a legendary rank 3 unpolished jade world could the world barrier be comparable to the real world. However, many gold-ranked rank 10 Goo Masters already had the strength to break through the void and could use a killer move to break the world barrier of a legendary rank 3 world. Perhaps only a legendary rank 4 platinum world would be safer. However, even if you had a platinum world and could resist external attacks and could not be broken, there would still be a commotion. The sound of a gold-ranked rank 10 Goo Masters killer move attacking the platinum world barrier would cause a commotion, and it would still be enough to attract a killing tribulation. Thus, the situation of a legendary Goo Master was extremely awkward. When fighting with a gold-ranked Goo Master, they could only use all their strength to suppress the world and maintain their strength at gold-ranked rank 10. It was like a fish in the water, suddenly evolving a layer of snail shell, and would instead be restricted in the water and would be extremely uncomfortable. To put it bluntly, we are transcendents, and the real world can no longer accommodate us. Shenlian nodded and smiled. Some people like to wear rings, and after a few years, they want to take off their rings, but they find that their fingers have grown fat, and the ring cannot be taken off. The real world is the ring, and the legendary Goo Master is the finger that has grown fat. Ingmuyu deeply agreed, and while fighting, he spoke with assurance. If there is no restriction of the killing tribulation, the strength of a legendary Goo Master is beyond your imagination. Of course, you have not stepped into the legendary realm, and naturally cannot understand the profoundness of this. Let me give a simple example. No matter how strong you are, you still need to breathe to survive. But if the old man could wantonly open up his world and pull you into his world, you would not be able to breathe, and how long would you be able to last? Shenlian immediately understood. The key is the eggshell. It is like a double-edged sword. It was originally a great killing weapon to protect the legendary Goo Master, but now it has become a huge restriction. Ingmuyu laughed loudly and said magnanimously, "What else do you want to ask? The old man will not hide anything and will not be stingy." Shenlian raised his eyebrows. "You are multitasking, yet you are still talking nonstop. You are clearly purposely making things difficult for yourself. Are you hiding something?" Ingmuyu laughed loudly. "You saw through it to be able to force the old man to this extent. It shows that your strength is not ordinary. However, the battle between Goo Masters is unpredictable, and changes occur in an instant. Before you truly win, you will never feel that you have the upper hand." Shenlian narrowed his eyes and said coldly, "Then I will force you into a corner and see what other trump cards you have." As he spoke, the ground suddenly cracked, like a cracked ice surface, and from the expanding cracks, a bone-white underworld fire spewed out. Lord of the Dead, life and death reversal. Endless underworld fire swept over and immediately enveloped Ingmuyu. The extreme cold fire corroded Ingmuyu, burning and refining him, turning him from a living person into an undead. Shenlian chanted in a low voice, "Death is not the end of life, forgetting is. Do not be afraid. Look, my fire is dancing with despair. That is the tears of the forsaken. If you don't want to be forgotten, accept the baptism of the undead fire. Decay is our glory." Ingmuyu's expression was slightly ferocious, and he resisted with all his strength. Finally, his body suddenly shone with a bright light, and a layer of transparent film appeared, sticking to the surface of his body. As expected of the Lord of the Dead, the Lord of the Dead who has the King's Jade is simply invincible. Ingmuyu gritted his teeth, and the light film on his body flickered nonstop, as if it had reached its limit, and was at the edge of some kind. Seeing this scene, Shenlian smiled, and said loudly, "This is your world barrier. I have finally forced you to the edge of collapse. Next, I will break your light film, and see what the so-called killing tribulation is." Ing Muyu's expression instantly became extremely solemn, and he said in a deep voice, "You are finally going to make a move yourself." The battle had already reached this stage, and Shun Lian had been sitting there the whole time, and the opponent was the infamous Golden Kill leader. No one would believe it. If you fall before I even make a move, wouldn't that be very boring? Shun Lian was still sitting with his legs crossed. He slowly raised his hand, and a golden liquid suddenly spurted out from his palm. It was the golden sea that Northern Heaven Gate's Zhou Aofing had accumulated for 27 years. Golden sea, solidify into a spear. Divine ability, pierce. Divine ability, instant flower, blooming blessing. Divine ability, chaotic flower, dazzle blessing. Divine ability, heaven and earth shaking blessing. Shun Lian used 5 divine abilities at once. They were all divine abilities that he had learned from Northern Heaven Gate, and after being analyzed by the military strategy guru, they were turned into his killer moves. The golden sea condensed into a golden divine spear, and with the addition of the pierce divine ability, it could pierce through the void and destroy the real world. Whoosh! As Shun Lian waved his hand, the golden divine spear turned into a golden light and shot out. Ing Muyu continuously teleported. However, chaotic flower dazzle divine ability interfered with his vision, while pierce divine ability ignored all evasion techniques. Ing Muyu instantly realized that he could not avoid this killer move. He could only face it head-on. Divine ability, heaven burning sea of fire. Divine ability, ice shield door. Ing Muyu was indeed worthy of being the Golden Kill leader. He could use 2 divine abilities in a row other than multitasking. A sea of fire suddenly appeared between him and Shun Lian. The heaven-burning flames burned fiercely. There were countless figures floating in the flames. They were being burned in the flames. They screamed miserably as they tried to grab outwards. When the golden divine spear flew above the sea of fire, it was immediately grabbed by those fire figures, dragged and slowed down. Those people in the sea of fire were all killed by the old man. Their vengeful souls did not dissipate after they died, so the old man threw their remnant souls into the sea of fire. It was originally a hobby of his, who knew that he would inadvertently learn a powerful divine ability. Ing Muyu snickered. However, the golden divine spear was extremely powerful. It could not be blocked by mere remnant souls. After pausing for a moment, it burst out with a dazzling golden light, scattering those remnant souls, and charged out, crossing the heaven-burning sea of fire. And at this time, Ing Muyu's second divine ability had already formed. 7 ice shield doors were arranged in a row, waiting for the attack. Boom, boom, boom. The golden divine spear's piercing power was boundless. It destroyed 5 ice shield doors in an instant. Its speed was slightly reduced, but with a flash of light, it destroyed the remaining 2 ice shield doors. In the next instant, the golden divine spear struck Ing Muyu. The tip of the spear pressed against the layer of light. The huge piercing power caused bright sparks to fly. Only at this time, the divine ability, blossoming flower, and the divine ability, shaking heaven and earth, erupted with their might, one crazily devouring life force, while the other caused the layer of light to flicker intensely. Crack, crack. The tip of the spear pierced through the layer of light. Ing Muyu's breathing stopped. His world barrier had cracked. Different from the previous act, Dingye relied on Berserk Gu and Berserk Gu, but did not manage to break Ing Muyu's layer of light. Shun Lian, on the other hand, used his 5 powerful divine abilities to break through the layer of light. Shun Lian, does your family specialize in divine abilities? Why did you use 5 of them at once? Ing Muyu was extremely speechless. He had been suppressed and shocked the whole time, and finally, he was forced into a desperate situation. This was unacceptable. Shun Lian took a deep breath and sneered. Don't act like you were wronged. I know you are still hiding a trump card. Use it now. Ing Muyu sighed. His expression suddenly turned serious as he said, Then don't blame the old man for being ruthless. Honestly speaking, the next killer move is one that the old man has never used before. I'm not sure how powerful it is. You better pray for yourself. Shun Lian's expression was solemn. He was ready for battle. Ingmiyu took a deep breath, his eyes shined with a sharp light. He shouted loudly and clenched his 5 fingers. An ancient-looking large blade appeared out of nowhere. Foolish old man Gu, moving mountain Gu. Predicaments make people grow. Predicaments make people strong. With the will of this foolish old man, the power of moving mountain, condense it into a blade, slash. Ingmuyu swung his saber and slashed at the golden divine spear. With a loud bang, the golden divine spear broke into pieces and shattered into pieces. Break. Chapter 258. With just one slash, the undead space disintegrated. Shunlian and Ingmuyu both returned to the real world, which was the destroyed Lotus Pool town. Ingmuyu's slash resolved the great danger. He chuckled. Shunlian, lad, how was the old man's slash? Blood seeped out from the corner of Shunlian's mouth and dyed his clothes red. He was still smiling and said, You have combined the willpower of the foolish old man and the mighty strength of moving mountains into one blade. You have broken my 5 supernatural powers and the space of the dead. Impressive. Ingmuyu also said proudly, The old man inherited foolish old man Gu and mountain moving Gu a year ago. After obtaining them, he realized that these 2 Gu were indeed complementary, but there was a condition to use them. That is, the user had to maintain great willpower in the face of danger. This made the old man very worried, because the old man had not encountered any adversity for a long time. Thanks to you, the old man had the chance to test the might of the combination of foolish old man Gu and mountain-moving Gu. It really did not disappoint the old man. Shunlian wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. He curled his lips. You don't want to? Insay, I will return your words to you. The battle between Gu masters is unpredictable and unpredictable. Before you truly win, don't ever think that you have the upper hand. Ingmuyu's eyes brightened. He said excitedly, What other trump cards do you have? Use them all. The old man will receive them. Shunlian's battle intent surged. He smiled eerily. I have already used my trump card. It is just that you were too focused on that slash and did not notice it. Ingmuyu was stunned. His expression immediately changed. The light barrier on his body, where the golden divine spear had pierced, was quickly healing. A small flame suddenly expanded, turning into a raging lion with flames coiling around it. It was mighty and domineering, roaring in all directions. What made Ingmuyu's scalp numb was that this raging lion had appeared in his world. That is to say, the raging lion could actually touch Ingmuyu's body. This was something that had never happened before. At this moment, Shunlian laughed out loud. He flipped his hand and took out a black leather book. He said loudly, Ingmuyu, my trump card is here. Ingmuyu's breathing suddenly stopped, and her pupils contracted fiercely. This is the book of life and death, used to determine life and death. Shunlian composed himself and raised his hand with a serious expression. Suddenly, a light flashed across his fingers, and a brush appeared out of thin air. The tip of the brush was scarlet red, as if it was dipped in fresh blood. Shunlian stared at Ingmuyu and said in a deep voice, The way to use the Book of Life and Death is very simple. You only need to know the target's name and appearance, and then write the name in the Book of Life and Death to kill the target. However, a person can have many names, such as full name, nickname, and so on. For example, you are Ingmuyu. You call yourself the Old Man. Your nickname is the Golden Killer, and you may have other names. However, which name in the Book of Life and Death is the most lethal? It depends on the target himself. In other words, the name that the target recognizes the most is the most lethal to the target. As for you, Ingmuyu, although you have many names in your heart, the name that you recognize the most is Ingxiaoyu. Ingmuyu's breathing completely stagnated. Shunlian wrote with the brush, Ingxiaoyu. Just as she finished writing, she heard Ingmuyu yell, Freeze, without caring about anything else. In a split second, the entire world suddenly froze, as if an ink painting had been fixed. I was almost played to death. Ingmuyu wiped off the cold sweat on his forehead, and his body flashed in front of Shunlian, looking at him deeply. Shunlian's eyes moved. Ingmuyu chuckled. Even if you have seen this trump card of the old man, you still won't be able to break it. The freeze divine ability was created by the old man using the world balance goo. And for a short period of time, after he connected the two worlds, he covered the real world with the legendary world, thus allowing him to wantonly control some of the laws of the real world and cultivate this powerful ability that can freeze all living things. It can be said that you are still in the real world, and you are also in the old man's legendary world. Among all the legendary goo masters in the world, only the old man has this ability, and this is also the greatest trump card that the old man has to fight against a rank 10 goo master. Saying so, Ingmuyu stared at Shun Lian and said excitedly, "Next, the old man will dissect you to see if you are a human or a demon. Don't worry, after the dissection, the old man will sew you up and ensure that you don't die. After the Fuyuan temple deals with you, the old man will kill you." Shun Lian's gaze flickered rapidly, and the strategy goo was working intensely, speeding up his thinking and analyzing in all aspects, crazily deducing and simulating everything in his mind. Ingmuyu smiled proudly. The old man has the 100 clan goo and is very knowledgeable. He can decipher the past and present, and even has countless unique skills. For example, dissecting a living person, the old man is extremely proficient. He will first cut off your limbs, then cut open your chest and open your skull. Right at this moment, Ingmuyu's smile suddenly froze because Shun Lian suddenly moved. He moved his fingers very slowly and with difficulty, and this made Ingmuyu fall into a daze. It was as if a fish that had been frozen in ice had suddenly started swimming. Raging lion kill. Shun Lian suddenly puffed out his chest and laughed proudly at the world. With a command, the frozen raging flame lion immediately shook its huge body and opened its mouth to spit out blue flames. There were red flames mixed in the flames, and all of them poured onto Ingmuyu's body. Ingmuyu retreated in shock. Using this chance, Shun Lian used his brush to write, "Ing Xiao Yu, death calamity descends." After he finished writing, Shun Lian dashed forward. After Ingmuyu retreated, he quickly condensed Yu Gong's moving mountain saber and slashed, chopping the raging lion into 8 pieces in a few moves. However, the raging lion had the eternal attribute and instantly recovered to its original state, continuing to spit out flames. Boom! On the other side, Shun Lian's body suddenly expanded, and his aura became tyrannical. His fists fell like rain and continuously bombarded Ingmuyu's light membrane. The huge fist force caused the world barrier to tremble violently, and the light membrane was imprinted with many fist marks. Ingmuyu's heart trembled. He wanted to stop Shun Lian, but he was entangled by the spirit of eternal flame and could not free himself to deal with it. He could only watch as Shun Lian wantonly violently attacked. At a certain moment, Ingmuyu flipped his hand and took out a black stone. This was the treasure he got from Meng Qingluo, called Iron Curtain. Releasing the Iron Curtain formed by this treasure would give Ingmuyu 3 breaths of time, and within these 3 breaths, he could use the power of a legendary rank without any restraint. This was Ingmuyu's last trump card. However, for some reason, Ingmuyu looked at Shun Lian and suddenly revealed a carefree smile and threw away the black stone. Finally, the powerful half-human, half-demon body broke the light membrane with brutal fists. The attacking Shun Lian broke into Ingmuyu's world. "Ingmuyu, let me have a good look at your legendary rank world." Shun Lian roared and rushed forward fiercely like fire. The muscles on his body were tight, and his fists were as big as a fist. "Come!" Ingmuyu laughed heartily, transformed into 3 heads and 8 arms, and punched fiercely. Every punch landed on flesh, and the sound was magnificent. The earth shook, the sky darkened. This tragic and exciting fight caused too much noise, and it had already attracted attention from all directions. Many powerful existences were nervously watching, and their minds were shaken. Who would have thought that Shun Lian could fight Ingmuyu to such an extent? They were evenly matched, and even had a slight advantage. At the final juncture, Shun Lian used his killer move again. The light in Shun Lian's palm rippled slightly. As he clenched his 5 fingers, a sword that was as bright as a crystal appeared out of thin air. It seemed real, yet illusory at the same time. The body of the sword emitted a magnificent halo like that of a gemstone. Great wisdom sword kill. Shen Lian attacked with his sword, and the sword light was like a tide, surging forward. Ingmu, who had 3 heads and 8 arms, immediately fell into a situation, and dozens of wounds of varying depths appeared on his body. Wisdom sword. Ingmu was deeply shocked and cried out in shock. So you were still hiding such a trump card. The attack power of Wisdom Path Gu depends on how high the user's wisdom is. Our wisdom is similar, but the old man's knowledge and experience are much higher than yours. Your great wisdom sword will not be able to cause heavy damage to the old man, Shen Lian coldly said. I only need you to be injured. Ingmu was slightly stunned. Raging Fire Lion suddenly charged forward, and the moment it opened its mouth, a black shadow shot out from its mouth. It was Jealousy Venomous Snake. Jealousy Venomous Snake, which contained a terrifying fire poison, pounced forward and bit Ingmu's neck, coiling around his body. The vicious fire poison quickly seeped into his body through the wounds on his body. Immediately after, Raging Fire Lion spewed out red flames, attacking Ingmu's fury. Ingmu was instantly enraged, and his eyes turned slightly bloodshot. Shen Lian also pounced forward, and a stupid rune appeared on his palm as he pressed it on Ingmu's chest. Gradually, Ingmu's eyes turned sluggish. Crack, crack, crack. His world barrier started to break apart, and endless aura was released. At the next moment, the sky suddenly darkened. Shen Lian suddenly raised his head, and his eyes widened to the extreme. He saw an inconceivable scene. Chapter 259. Shen Lian had heard them mention the arrival of the killing tribulation time and time again, but it was indescribable and secretive. Until now, he had finally seen it with his own eyes. Above the sky, from the endless void, a long and narrow crack was torn open, stretching across the horizon and covering the vast land. At this moment, all the legendary Gu masters in the world subconsciously shrunk their necks and held their breaths, their hearts trembling with fear. Even those who were timid could not help but be terrified. Their bodies were covered in cold sweat, and they were trembling nonstop. Black, a pure black substance flowed out from that crack. It fell and spread out. At first glance, it looked like a woman's hair. Every strand of hair was thicker than a pillar. There were thousands of them, floating in the air and falling down like evil tentacles, probing, and searching everywhere. In an instant, as if they had sensed the source of the legendary aura, all the hair fluttered crazily and rushed towards Ingmu. This is the killing tribulation. Shen Lian's scalp felt numb. He immediately got rid of Ingmu and retreated far away. At this moment, Shen Lian's mind was filled with thoughts. He finally gritted his teeth and removed the stupid rune. In an instant, Ingmu regained some clarity from his daze. As the rune disappeared, a vast amount of essence energy burst out from Ingmu's body and poured into Shen Lian's body. Strategy Gu, Gold Rank 9. Evolve again. However, at this moment, Shen Lian could not smile. He stared at the approaching hair. It's over now. After Ingmu suddenly woke up, he immediately raised his head to look at the sky. His pupils could not help but shrink, and his Adam's apple bobbed. Shen Lian asked in astonishment, "What is this hair?" "The image you see is hair." Ingmu was surprised when he heard this. His face was slightly pale, and his expression was extremely serious. Before he could say anything, his long black hair swept over. Slash! Ingmu was under extreme pressure like never before, but he also erupted with unprecedented power. He raised the 10,000-meter-long Yugong mountain-moving broadsword and slashed it down, cutting through the dome of heaven. The blade flashed past countless gazes and then landed on the long black hair. At this moment, everyone held their breaths. Peng's long black hair swayed gently like a weeping willow in the breeze. The foolish old man's mountain-moving saber shattered into pieces like scattered jewels. Ingmu immediately coughed up a mouthful of blood. We're done for. Ing Muyu laughed bitterly. He glanced at Shun Lian and said helplessly, "Did you see that? This is the killing tribulation. Even someone as strong as the old man can't do anything about it." As she spoke, her long black hair approached Ing Muyu and pulled her up into the sky. "Shun Lian, the old man will go first." Ing Muyu laughed loudly. Suddenly, he pointed at a certain spot on the ground as if to indicate something. Shun Lian lowered his head and looked around. He found a black pebble. He raised his hand and grabbed it, but he couldn't find anything special about it. At this moment, Yellow Ox soared into the sky amidst the flashes of lightning. Heavenly thunder rolled and dark clouds covered the sky. Streaks of 9 heavens divine thunder rushed out. The thunderclaps were like the heavens as they bombarded the long black hair with great momentum. However, it was all to no avail. Yellow Ox was speechless. "We failed miserably." Then, Yellow Ox pondered for a moment. Suddenly, it looked down at Shun Lian from the sky and struck out a sharp and bright lightning. Shun Lian was shocked. He hurriedly dodged, but the lightning was too fast. It quickly chased after Shun Lian and struck him. "It doesn't hurt." Shun Lian was stunned. The lightning seemed terrifying, but it didn't have any lethality. When it came into contact with his body, he only felt a slight numbness on his arm. Shun Lian hurriedly looked at his arm and found that there was a thunder totem on his skin. It looked like a tattoo, but he couldn't see through its mysteries. This made him feel bewildered. "What is this? A curse?" Shun Lian looked up at Yellow Ox. He wanted to ask, but Yellow Ox rushed into the sky and chased after Ing Muyu. The long black hair dragged Ing Muyu into the fissure. Yellow Ox rushed in after them. Finally, the fissure quickly closed and the sky gradually brightened. Everything returned to normal. Shun Lian was stunned and speechless. After a long time, a violent coughing sound was heard. In the ruins, Fei Muyi supported Lotus Sword Lord and walked over. The Lotus Sword Lord was severely injured. His clothes were tattered and his hair was messy. He looked at Shun Lian and laughed bitterly. "Ing Muyu is dead. Haha, he's finally dead." Then he suddenly coughed up a big mouthful of blood. Fei Muyi helped him sit down and said nervously, "Rest for a while. You're too badly injured. I'll go check on Dingya and Bai Wuan." Hearing this, Lotus Sword Lord calmed down a little. He hurriedly waved his hand and said, "I won't die. Don't worry. Go and give Dingya and Bai Wuhan some healing medicine. They're much more seriously injured than I am." Fei Muyi nodded and ran away. Shun Lian walked over and looked at the ruins of Lotus Pond Town. The heavenly scenery no longer existed. He couldn't help but sigh and asked, "Lotus Pond Town is destroyed. Clean Dust Villa is gone too. Do you regret it?" Lotus Sword Lord pondered for a moment and didn't say anything. It seemed like he didn't know how to answer this question. Of course, he knew that killing Ing Muyu would cost him a lot. However, he didn't expect the price to be so terrible. At this moment, he still had lingering fears. After thinking for a while, Lotus Sword Lord raised his head. His face was full of fatigue. He smiled and said, "Thank you for killing Ing Muyu. You've removed a great evil for the world. You've done a great service." Shun Lian's eyes flashed. "What are your plans in the future?" Lotus Sword Lord smiled and said, "The 4 of us have already agreed that if we can kill Ing Muyu and survive, we'll live in seclusion from now on. We won't get involved in the affairs of the Jianghu anymore. We just want to live in peace." Shun Lian pursed his lips and sighed. Demons are causing chaos in the world. All kinds of demons and ghosts are emerging. Where can there be peace? Lotus Sword Lord smiled gently and said, "I'm not as open-minded as you. I'm good at music, chess, calligraphy, and painting. A pond full of lotus fragrance is enough for me to enjoy half a day of peace." Shun Lian didn't try to persuade him anymore. He smiled and said, "If you need anything, you can look for me anytime. I'll do my best to help." Lotus Sword Lord nodded and said seriously, "You're already famous. I won't be unable to find you." Shun Lian sighed and said, "Yes, I'm already famous." Lotus Sword Lord saluted and said seriously, "There are many strong people watching you closely. You have the king's jade with you. It's better for you to leave first. Whoever wants to take advantage of the situation, feel free to come." If one comes, I'll kill one. If 10 comes, I'll kill 10. Shun Lian said calmly. He then nodded as a sign of respect. Then, he rode the wind and flew away. Shun Lian flew in the air and played with the black cobblestone. His thoughts were churning like waves. Ingmuyu left me a stone. Yellow Ox left me a lightning totem. Are they haunting me? Shun Lian smiled bitterly. He thought for a while and kept the black cobblestone, not thinking too much about it. Right at this time, with a whoosh, two figures rushed out from the clouds not far away and blocked Shun Lian's path. Among these two people, one had clouds under his feet, while the other had huge eagle wings on his back. They had the same face as a monk, evil and fiendish. One could tell they were demonic goo masters at a glance. Shun Lian stood in the air and asked with a flash in his eyes, "You two are?" The one standing on the clouds was wearing a black robe. He had a slim figure and dark red eyes like a snake. He sneered, "Fiendine sect, me and Taoist, golden rank 10. The one with the wings was shorter by a head and had an eye-catching mole on his cheek. He chuckled, "Fiendine sect, people call me Smiling Ghost, golden rank 10. Saying so, he took out a mask and wore it. The mask was an evil ghost with a sinister smile, looking extremely horrifying. Shun Lian had a suspicious expression. "Let me guess you want to rob me." Smiling Ghost laughed. "Friend, you are a smart person. Be straightforward. Hand over the king's jade, and we won't harm your life." Otherwise, Shun Lian was speechless and said, "My two demonic friends, I just had a fierce battle with Ingmuyu. I am weak and exhausted, and I'm covered in wounds. You guys came out at this time to rob me. Your timing is perfect, and your shamelessness is so high. You are worthy of being the role models of the demonic path." Me and Taoist shouted, "Stop talking nonsense. We only want the king's jade. Quickly hand it over." Shun Lian suddenly sneered, "You came at the right time. I was not satisfied with the killing earlier, so I will use you two idiots to vent my anger." Hearing this, me and Taoist could not help but be stunned. Smiling Ghost's smile froze. Shun Lian's gaze became fierce. Immediately, the raging flame lion roared, and the jealous viper pounced at me and Taoist and Smiling Ghost. Almost at the same time, Shun Lian dashed out. He teleported and pounced on Smiling Ghost, punching him with his fist. So fast, Smiling Ghost was shocked and quickly made a move. He was already prepared. Ghost aura surged around his body, and large amounts of ghost aura gushed out. From the ghost aura, sinister evil ghosts appeared, baring their fangs and brandishing their claws. Ghost King appears, Yin soldiers pass through. Humans have Yin and Yang Qi. Evil ghosts are formed from Yin Qi, resentment, hatred, and other negative emotions, greedy for Yang Qi. Smiling Ghost was worthy of being a demonic path goo master. In an instant, he released thousands of evil ghosts, forming a majestic Yin army, fighting to be the first to face the enemy head-on. That scene was like the gates of hell had opened, and evil ghosts filled the world. Ghost Path Goo. Shun Lian was slightly surprised. As usual, he threw out a punch. The tyrannical power of the fist crushed over. More than 100 evil spirits were destroyed by his punch. Hellfire Burn. Jealous Viper. Release fire poison. Unfortunately, Shun Lian, as the Lord of the Dead, had great deterrence towards the evil ghosts and Yin soldiers. The Jealous Viper's fire poison was refined from the Eternal Flame. The Eternal Flame was an extreme Yang fire, which was the nemesis of Ghost Path Goo. In an instant, the flames burned fiercely, and the evil ghosts and Yin soldiers had nowhere to hide, suffering heavy casualties. Smiling Ghost could no longer smile. Chapter 260. Evening Muyu was defeated by me, and you still think that it is impossible? How stupid are you? Shun Lian's face was full of mockery and disdain. He threw punches after punches, and all the malevolent spirits and Yin soldiers were forced to retreat. In a split second, Shun Lian got close to Smiling Ghost. Smiling Ghost was terrified, like a mortal who had his armor stripped off and fell into an ice cellar, his teeth chattering as he said, "Friend, please calm down. Let's talk nicely. I am willing to apologize and compensate for my earlier offense." Shun Lian grabbed Smiling Ghost's wings and said coldly, I don't need your apology. I only want you to die. A sharp sound. Shun Lian broke Smiling Ghost's wings. Immediately, Smiling Ghost let out a miserable shriek. His back was covered in blood and flesh. He was on the verge of collapsing. Shun Lian grabbed him by the neck and lifted him up. He broke his neck and threw him towards me and Taoist. Me and Taoist was fighting with Raging Flame Lion. He had the infamous bewildering smoke, goo. This goo could make people breathe out red smoke that had a strong aphrodisiac effect. Those who were hit by it would quickly succumb to it, being played with and abused without any resistance. Unfortunately, Raging Flame Lion was not a human. His confusion smoke goo was ineffective. Thus, me and Taoist had no choice but to use his other main ascension, Whip Goo, controlling the demon weapon Bramble Whip and lashing at Raging Flame Lion, causing the clouds to tremble. However, no matter how many times he crippled the Raging Flame Lion, the Raging Flame Lion would always recover in the next moment. This made me, Yin Taoist, deeply frightened. Suddenly, Smiling Ghost flew over and crashed into his chest. You? Me and Taoist groaned, blood seeping out of the corner of his mouth. He lowered his head to look at Smiling Ghost in his chest and felt a chill run down his spine. Dead. Shun Lian rushed over. Raging Flame Lion and Jealous Viper attacked together. Me and Taoist was extremely frightened. The red cloud under his feet flashed, and he was about to fly away. Since you're here, then stay. How could Shun Lian allow him to stay? He flicked his sleeve and said, Snow Spirit Sword, kill him. With a whooshing sound, the Snow Spirit Sword swept across the sky at an extremely fast speed. As it approached, a sword light flashed and suddenly pounced on me in Taoist and pierced through his chest. Then, the Snow Spirit Sword quickly turned back and continuously pierced through his body several times. The undying being residing in the Snow Spirit Sword directly swallowed the soul of me, Yin Taoist. Shun Lian activated his psyche power and brought the bodies of Smiling Ghost and me, Yin Taoist, to him. They're all gold-ranked rank Tengu masters. In order to break through to the legendary realm, they must have accumulated large amounts of resources. I want to plunder all of them. Shun Lian immediately activated his military strategy goo and analyzed it thoroughly. He then smiled and extracted a vast amount of ghost chi from Smiling Face Ghost's body, plundering a large amount of bewildering smoke from me, Yin Taoist. So much ghost chi, I don't know how many people I have to kill to plunder it. And this bewildering smoke contains the blood essence and een essence of countless virgins. Shun Lian did not care about it, and refined it all into his body, squeezing the two demonic path cultivators dry. Next, Shun Lian arrogantly looked at the sky, overlooking the world, and let out a heaven-shaking roar. Shun is here. Do you dare to fight me? His voice rumbled and resounded beyond the 9 heavens. At once, countless gazes that were following him were extinguished. In the vast northern lands, no one dared to challenge him. Shun Lian, who defeated Yu, at least for now, was invincible in the world. In this battle, almost all of my trump cards have been exposed. Before the various forces make a targeted arrangement to restrain me, I need to seize the opportunity and seize more victories. Shun Lian thought for a moment, then immediately soared into the sky and went straight to Cui Yun Manor in Ronghua City. He's here. Ma Chuanjin and Shi Weiguwei raised their heads at the same time and looked at the horizon. A black that was getting bigger and bigger, finally revealing Shun Lian's figure. He actually defeated Yu. Ma Chuanjin exclaimed in shock. Shi Weiguwei laughed and was not stingy with his compliments. Young Palace Lord's destined person is naturally lucky. Shun Lian's achievements are not up to par. He is still on his way to the peak. While speaking, Shun Lian descended from the sky and cupped his fists, saying with a smile, Left and right protectors is Kai Air here. He had just finished speaking when a beautiful figure flew over. Who else could it be but Gong Sun Kai? Her eyes were sparkling with tears as she threw herself into Shun Lian's embrace. Feeling her softness, Shun Lian's mind could not help but ripple as he muttered, "The outcome is decided." These 4 words were as heavy as a mountain. Only those who had been hunted down by Ing Muyu and luckily survived could understand the weight of these 4 words. Gong Sun Kai was immersed in the embrace of happiness, and her hanging heart could finally be put down. Shun Lian quickly calmed down and said, "Let's strike while the iron is hot. We have to take back Beiyu Palace before Gong Sun Dushio can react. Take me to Beiyu Palace quickly." The left and right protectors looked at each other and suddenly felt their hearts warm up. They immediately held each other's hands. A black and white Tai Chi pattern spread out under their feet. "Let's go." The left and right protectors moved their minds, and the light of teleportation gushed out. The 4 of them suddenly disappeared. The next moment, surrounded by boundless mountains, there was an amber lake. This lake was located in the northernmost part of the territory of the human tribe. It was close to the source of the Wei River and belonged to an area where few people went. In the quiet forest, a dazzling light suddenly burst out and lit up the forest. After the light was extinguished, the left and right protectors, Shun Lian and Gong Sun Kai, appeared. Shun Lian looked around and quickly found the amber lake not far away. The lake water was full of color and crystal clear like amber. The surface of the lake even faintly emitted a hazy light, like moonlight pouring down on the earth. It was magnificent. Shun Lian was surprised and said, "Is Beiyu Palace under Amber Lake?" Gong Sun Kai smiled gently and said, "My ancestors had foresight. They didn't build a palace on land. Instead, they spent a lot of money to buy a special treasure from the Mere people. It's called the Empty Wall." Shun Lian's mind was moved. He had heard of this treasure long ago. He exclaimed, "I heard that the Empty Wall is an independent space. Its shape is similar to a crystal ball decoration. It's spherical and transparent. You can see the inside through the glass-like outer layer. Moreover, the empty wall can freely change its size. It could be as big as a mountain or as small as a grain of sand. Inside the empty wall, there's no water and the space is extremely wide. You can build tall buildings and develop fertile land. It's like a small world." Gong Sun Kai nodded and said, "The empty wall is extremely precious. It can exist for 300 years without collapsing. My ancestors were rich and overbearing. They bought 10 empty walls from the Mere people. Later, when Beiyu Palace was destroyed, the clansmen relied on the empty wall to get rid of all kinds of hatred and survive." Shun Lian's heart tightened and said, "This is bad. What if Gong Sun Dushio escaped with the empty wall?" Shi Wei Gui waved his hand and said, "The void wall has always been guarded by Protector Zhou. We have the right to control it. Gong Sun Dushio cannot take the void wall away. Otherwise, she would not have the patience to let Kai and us live." Shun Lian sighed and said, "This matter shouldn't be delayed. Let's go to Beiyu Palace quickly." The 4 of them quickly walked to Amber Lake. When they reached the shore, Shi Wei Gui immediately cast a spell. A light flashed between his fingers, and he pointed at the lake's surface. Accompanied by the splashing sound of water, a sealed passage slowly rose from the water. "Let's go." Shi Wei Gui took the lead and entered the passage. Shun Lian quickly caught up with him and realized that the tunnel led straight to the bottom of the lake. There was a huge, empty wall at the bottom of the lake. Inside the wall, there were magnificent palaces, pavilions, winding corridors, bamboo forests, and gardens. Compared to the Lin family at Chihua Basin, this place was not inferior at all. Before they reached the end of the passage, Shun Lian and the other 3 people's faces darkened at the same time. There was a strong smell of blood in front of them. Suddenly, they saw a person lying on the ground in a pool of blood. Shi Wei Gui quickly ran over and saw that the person was dead. Shi Wei Gui looked cold and solemn. "The blood is still warm. He died not long ago." Ma Chuanjin thought of something and said anxiously, "Gong Sun Dushio, you lunatic." He stamped his foot and rushed in recklessly. Shi Wei Gui immediately followed. Gong Sun Kai's face was covered with a layer of frost. She gritted her teeth. Shun Lian took her hand and rushed to the main building. They arrived in 3 breaths. "Look, the left and right guardians are back. They also want the young palace master." There were about 250 people gathered in the main hall. Almost all of them were wounded. There were many corpses on the ground. Obviously, a fierce battle had just taken place here. Sure Wei Gui was furious and roared, "What's going on? Where's Gongsun Duxiu?" One person came forward and said in a low voice, "We don't know what happened either. The acting palace master suddenly summoned us and said something like crazy. She said that Beiyu Palace only existed in name. She wanted to take us away from here and find a new light and future. She wanted us to leave Beiyu Palace." Of course, we didn't agree. We suggested that we wait for the left and right guardians to come back. We didn't expect that the acting palace master and her followers would suddenly kill us. They caught us off guard and then left. Ma Chuanjin heard this and quickly counted the heads. He was so angry that he almost fainted. There were 500 elite disciples in Beiyu Palace. Gongsun Duxiu took away some of them and killed some of them. Only half of them are left. These so-called elite disciples were carefully cultivated by Beiyu Palace over the years. The left and right guardians were also their teachers. They treated them like their own children. How could he not be heartbroken? Gongsun Kai was heartbroken and said with tears, "We were late. We should have missed Gongsun Duxiu." Sure Wei Gui sighed and said, "We came too fast and scared Gongsun Duxiu away. Otherwise, she would have killed all those who didn't submit to her and left. Such a deranged woman must not be allowed to live." Shun Lian asked, "Is there a way to track her?" "Yes." Gongsun Kai wiped her tears and said, "I always remember her breath. I can track her." Chapter 261. Gongsun Kai closed her watery eyes, her nose twitching slightly. After a while, she opened her eyes and said, "Gongsun Duxiu went southwest, about 300 li away from us." "Southwest, 300 li? She hasn't gone far." Ma Chuanjin's killing intent was wanton. Thinking about it, Gongsun Duxiu did not expecting Muyu to be defeated by Shun Lian. Without any preparation, they could not have gone far. Running in such a hurry, they left too many traces. "Let's chase." Sure Wei Gui's expression was cold. He immediately held Ma Chuanjin's hand. The black and white Tai Chi pattern under their feet shone brightly. The light pillar of teleportation enveloped the four of them, and they disappeared in a flash. On a winding path leading to the south, a wooden boat was speeding along, kicking up clouds of dust along the way. This wooden boat was 60 meters long and close to 30 meters wide. The whole body was made of yellow beech wood. Flowers and vines covered the body of the boat. It galloped on the ground like a horse, traveling 1,000 li in a day. The cabin was divided into upper and lower levels and many independent areas. At this moment, in the main cabin, Gongsun Duxiu's expression was gloomy. He held his forehead with his hand and frowned. At this moment, the elegant Ling Ji walked in. He took a deep look at Gongsun Duxiu and said, "Palace Master, there were a total of 112 people who went with you, among which 39 were gold rank." Gongsun Duxiu heard this and sighed inexplicably. He said in a deep voice, "If we did not act hastily, we could have taken away even more people. They were all Gu Dao geniuses that Northern Nether Palace carefully selected. They were talents that were nurtured with the best resources. It would be a pity to abandon them, but not killing them all would leave behind a huge hidden danger." Ling Ji's eyes flashed. He said with hatred, "Palace Master, you are a genius, a legendary Gu Master, the best candidate to revitalize Northern Nether Palace. However, the left and right guardians are stubborn and blindly loyal. This caused Northern Nether Palace to split apart. They are simply unforgivable. And that Shun Lian, I don't know what kind of luck he had. He actually causing Muyu to fail miserably. If not for him, we would not have fallen to such a state." Gongsun Duxiu's gaze was cold. He gritted his teeth and said, "What's the use of hatred? We need to turn it into strength and think of a way to get rid of Shun Lian." He paused. "I know you can't forget about Kai. You can't forget about me. As long as you can kill Shun Lian, I can guarantee you will get what you want." Ling Ji's spirit was lifted. He knelt down on one knee and said, "This subordinate is willing to do anything for the palace master." Gongsun Duxiu nodded and smiled satisfyingly. "From now on, you will be my right-hand man. Go and appease those people." Don't even think about getting off this ship. Understood. Gongsun Dushio stood up and left. When he walked out of the door, he suddenly noticed a few drops of blood on his white clothes. He seemed to have thought of something, and his expression became dull for a while. Then, he came back to his senses, and a cold smile appeared on his face. He gently waved his hand and sprinkled a trace of water to wash his clothes. Immediately, the blood stains disappeared. He was still as handsome as before. In the next moment, accompanied by a loud bang, the land boat suddenly shook violently, tilted, fell, and broke into two halves. The people on the boat were caught off guard and fell in all directions. Gongsun Dushio, get out here. Ma Chuanjin's angry roar could be heard, shaking everyone's ears. Old thing, you came so fast. Gongsun Dushio rushed out of the main cabin and landed on the toppled boat. He looked around and saw 4 people standing in front of him. They were the left and right guardians, Shun Lian and Gongsun Kai, who had rushed over. Gongsun Dushio was extremely cold and said coldly, I was wondering who it was. It turned out to be you 2 old farts, the useless Kai, and a gangster from the Jianghu gang. How dare you? How dare you destroy my land boat? Ma Chuanjin spat and mocked. What land boat? Isn't it just using your Mother Earth venomous insect to drive a few trees on the ground? It's flashy but useless. Do you really think you can escape with this broken thing? Gongsun Dushio shouted. Old thing, don't forget your identity. You are just slaves of the Beiyu Palace. How dare you teach the Gongsun people a lesson? Do you want to betray your ancestors? Hearing this, Gongsun Kai's face was as cold as ice. He scolded, Gongsun Dushio, you were also raised by Granny Ma and Eunuch Shur. They taught you all your skills. They're like a father and mother to you. They put in a lot of hardships for you. I don't expect you to be grateful, but you shouldn't show them no respect. Gongsun Dushio sneered. How arrogant. Kai, you have really grown up. You don't even care about me, your aunt. You're also blind, just like your father. Open your eyes and look carefully at Ma Chuanjin and Shur Weigui, these 2 old things. They took advantage of their seniority and controlled the Beiyu Palace for many years. They have a final say in everything. The Beiyu Palace no longer belongs to the Gongsun family. It belongs to them. Your father is willing to be their puppet, but I'm not willing to. Shur Weigui frowned and shouted, What do you mean? Gongsun Dushio put his hands on his waist and sneered. Shur Weigui, have you long suspected that I killed my brother? Ha ha ha, yes, I killed him. What? Gongsun Kai's breath stagnated. Ma Chuanjin was also completely stunned. Shur Weigui sighed bitterly. In the past, I only suspected that Kai Er's father died in a strange way. I wasn't sure that he was murdered, and I didn't suspect you either. But later, after you became the previous palace master, you became aggressive and ruthless. You were so different from your gentle and kind character that you used to be. That's why you attracted my attention. But I didn't expect that you were the one who did it. Gongsun Dushio laughed sinisterly. My brother is pedantic and stupid. He's not even 1,000th of me. But the Beiyu Palace adheres to tradition. The palace master position is passed to males and not females. I wanted to fight for it, but all of you reprimanded me for having evil intentions, saying that I would bring endless trouble to the Beiyu Palace. He is my brother. I won't fight for it if he becomes the palace master. But my brother has been weak and sickly since he was young. He was too anxious for success and failed in the good refinement. He only had 1 daughter after marrying 6 women. He didn't have a son. The Beiyu Palace was the last one. What were you doing at this time? You were actually discussing passing the palace master position to Kai Er. What do you mean? Isn't she a girl? Why can't I? Why can't she? I was angry. I refused to accept it. Thus, I killed my brother with my own hands. The palace master position was won by me. I deserve it. Those who obstruct me should die. Shur Weigui shook his head. He was extremely disappointed. Ma Chuanjin pointed at Gongsun Dushio, filled with grief and indignation. You are crazy, crazy. Gongsun Kai's eyes were burning with anger. He said, Gongsun Dushio, you will die a horrible death. Gongsun Dushio sneered. I should have gotten rid of you long ago. But since you are here, I will send you to see your father now. Behind her, many figures appeared. There were more than 100 people. They were all Bayou Palace's people. Ma Chuanjin looked around and said with pain, "You are all Bayou Palace's disciples. Do you really want to follow this crazy woman who killed her brother? Stop before it's too late and turn back." The left and right guardians had great prestige in the Bayou Palace. These people were all raised by them. When Ma Chuanjin glanced at them, they all lowered their heads. They were too ashamed to face him. Gongsun Duxiu laughed and said, "Their hands are already stained with the blood of Bayou Palace's disciples. There is no turning back. Once they get on my boat, they can't get off." Ling Ji walked out of the crowd and said indifferently, "Our ancestors set the rule that the left and right guardians can't hurt the Gongsun people. In other words, Ma Chuanjin and Shi Weigui can't use the goo poison on the palace master if they don't offend me. Moreover, I will not attack unless I am attacked. The goo is a passive skill. You don't have to worry. You just need to send 10 people to hold them back. The rest of you, follow me to kill Shen Lian and capture Gongsun Kai alive." "Ling Ji, you traitor." Seeing this, Gongsun Kai was completely enraged. Ling Ji raised his eyebrows and said, "A fine bird chooses a good tree to nest in. Gongsun Kai, I've been infatuated with you. You know my feelings, but you'd rather follow this Jianghu gangster. Don't blame me for being ruthless. Today, I'll let you see Shen Lian die with your own eyes." Gongsun Kai took a deep breath and said coldly, "Ling Ji, have you forgotten that you were killed by Shen Lian? I used the death substitution goo to save you." Ling Ji frowned. A trace of uneasiness flashed through his mind. He said harshly, "So what?" Gongsun Kai smiled coldly and said, "I can bring you back to life, but I can also make you die without a burial place." It was unknown what she had done, but in the next moment, Ling Ji suddenly let out a shrill scream, his expression extremely terrified. His body started to change. His flesh and blood gradually turned into mud and splashed all over the ground. There was no corpse left. Seeing this scene, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. Gongsun Duxiu thought of something and said harshly, "Little bitch, you've been holding back. The real ability of the Nuwa venomous insect is not death substitution, but creation of flesh and blood. The resurrected person looks the same as before, but in fact, their flesh and blood are under your control. Their life and death are all in your hands." Gongsun Kai sneered and said, "I saved Ling Ji out of sincerity, and I killed him out of sincerity." She paused for a while and said, "There's one more thing. There's no need for the left and right guardians to deal with you. I can kill you alone." Gongsun Duxiu laughed and said sarcastically, "Little bitch, after finding a man, you've become so arrogant. You deserve to die. Do it." At his order, the traders of Bayou Palace no longer had any scruples. They rushed over while shouting. Shen Lian looked at Gongsun Kai and said, "One person is enough." Gongsun Kai nodded and said, "I'm confident that I can defeat her. Okay, I'll kill everyone else for you." Shen Lian smiled and rushed out without hesitation. Then, the furious lion, the jealous viper, and the sorrowful jade hare, the 3 flame spirits, appeared out of thin air and followed Shen Lian into the crowd. Chapter 262. Shen Lian was not idle either. He waved his hand and released hellfire. The white flames spread out like a tide. Amidst the icy flames, the mountain-like mammoth demon corpses rushed out. The undead army was vast and mighty, merciless and unstoppable. Among them were 2 human corpses. They were Mi Yin Daoist and Smiling Ghost. They were also refined into undead by Shen Lian, truly reusing trash. Northern Nether Palace's traders were all dumbfounded. They thought they were using a human wave tactic, but to think that Shen Lian was the one using a human wave tactic. He was not alone. Shen Lian licked his lips and laughed eerily. "I learned a move from Ing Mu Yu. I can test it on you guys." While speaking, Shen Lian's aura erupted. His body grew rapidly, and he turned into a 3-headed, 8-armed man. One hand holding the heaven-eroding sword, one hand holding the flaming blade, one hand holding the dragon claw, and the other 5 holding the great wisdom sword. He charged into the crowd. Wailing and broken limbs flew everywhere. This Shen Lian is actually so strong. We can't beat him. All the close combat experts were instantly killed by him. Just the undead army alone is already unstoppable. Oh heavens, look! All the people he killed have turned into undead. How can we fight like this? Northern Nether Palace's traders were terrified. Over 100 of them were scared out of their wits by Shen Lian alone. The battle was one-sided from the start. It was a complete suppression. Even though these Northern Nether Palace's traders were also geniuses, facing the invincible Shen Lian, they only felt that there was always someone better than them, and that there was absolute strength. Seeing this, Gongsun Duxio's breathing also stopped. He could not believe it, but finally realized that Shen Lian defeated Muyu not by luck, but by pure strength. Golden-ranked Tengu masters attacked together. Gongsun Duxio's pupils shrunk. He could not remain calm and quickly commanded his subordinates. Figures moved quickly. 6 Gu masters appeared around Shen Lian, surrounding him in 6 different directions, as if they were setting up a formation. Shen Lian, get out of the way. That's the 6-pointed star array. Sure, Wei Gui's gaze flashed. He quickly reminded. The 6 of them are in charge of star-type Gu. They can form a hexagram star formation. They can summon the killer move flowing light in the sky. It can shatter mountains and split seas. Star Gu. Shen Lian licked his lips. This was the first time he had encountered such a strange Gu. From its name, one could tell that such a Gu would only be born when a meteor fell to the earth. It was extremely rare. It should have been transformed by the king of Beiyu, using the Gu from nothing. It's too late. You've been surrounded by us. The 6-star rank Gu masters had solemn expressions. Strange lights were shooting out of their bodies. 6 layers of light interweaved, forming a 6-pointed star formation with Shen Lian at the center of the formation. Shen Lian tried to teleport, but he found that the space around him seemed to be frozen. He couldn't teleport away. In the next moment, a 3-meter-wide beam of light shot down from the heavens, smashing into Shen Lian's body like a giant hammer. A grand explosion and tremor spread out without restraint. The left and right protectors and Gongsun Kai's expressions changed. Gongsun Duxio couldn't help but laugh coldly. After getting rid of Shen Lian, victory was in her hands. In the billowing dust, Shen Lian crawled up from the several-meter-deep pit with his clothes torn. He curled his lips and muttered, "What 6-pointed star array? Other than having a grand momentum, it's not even as strong as Muyu's fist. It's not worth mentioning." The 6-star Rangu masters were completely shocked. Gongsun Duxio was incomparably stunned. His smile froze on his face, and his face was as pale as paper. In the next moment, Shen Lian took a deep breath and swung the great wisdom sword wildly. Wherever the sword passed, intelligence suppressed victory, and the 6 were all injured. Shen Lian moved closer to them and freed one of his hands. The talisman of stupidity appeared in his palm, and he imprinted it on their bodies. After the imprinting was done, he ignored them and rushed to the rest of the people. Along the way, he started his massacre. In an instant, the 6-star rank Gu masters all fell into a daze. They had a foolish expression on their faces, and no matter how Gongsun Duxio called out to them, they didn't come back to their senses. After a while, the battle was basically over. Other than the 6-star rank Gu masters, the rest were all killed by Shen Lian alone. After plundering their savings, they were all turned into undead spirits. After that, Shen Lian removed the imprinting. Immediately, the 6-star rank Gu masters all fell to the ground, losing large amounts of mental energy, which Shen Lian wantonly plundered and refined. Shen Lian did not show any mercy. He killed all 6 of them and plundered their savings with ease. He then added new servants to the army of the dead. Gongsun Duxio looked on helplessly as her scalp turned numb. She was sure that Shen Lian had the ability to break her legendary world, and with the left and right guardians around, she couldn't escape and was in a desperate situation. At this time, Gongsun Kai stepped closer. Her aura gradually rose, and her body underwent an incomparably strange transformation. Her legs merged together, and turned into a long snake tail. Her upper body was still in human form, forming a strange true body with a snake body and a human head. Her whole body burst out with boundless divine light. This is Nuwa's true body. Gongsun Duxio's pupils shrunk fiercely. She felt a great unease in her heart, because Gongsun Kai's strength far exceeded her expectations. It has only been a year, and you have actually grown to this extent. Gongsun Duxio's throat trembled as she finally realized the true danger. It wasn't the left and right guardians or Shan Lian. It was Gongsun Kai who had been keeping a low profile. She was even more dangerous than Shan Lian. You're courting death. Gongsun Duxio couldn't hold back and attacked crazily, erupting with power that was infinitely close to legendary. Countless thorns rose from the ground, wrapped in countless vines and thorns, sweeping over. Gongsun Kai turned a blind eye to it, swaying her snake tail and swimming calmly amidst the powerful magic that was like the end of the world. Not a single leaf touched her body. She was always able to find a flaw and loophole at the most critical moment, cleverly resolving the crisis. Shan Lian clicked his tongue in wonder and gasped in amazement. I said that I can defeat you alone. Gongsun Kai's face was full of divine light, noble and holy. Her eyes flashed slightly, revealing a victorious smile. If the sky is incomplete, I will fix it. Everything is incomplete, and I have a pair of hands that can fix the sky. Gongsun Kai gently struck out with her palm, emitting a magical flowing light. You! Gongsun Duxio was scared out of her wits and hurriedly tried to dodge, but the flowing light followed closely and imprinted on her body. With a crack, a layer of light film emerged on her body, revealing the barrier of her world. Your world has a lot of flaws, a lot of flaws. Gongsun Kai smiled coldly, full of murderous intent, and said in a cold voice, if you had chosen to protect me and treat me and my father as your family, then I would have used my hands to fix the defects, help you build the most stable legendary world, and make you incomparably powerful. But there are no ifs. Go to hell. Gongsun Kai's eyes narrowed as she leaped into the air. Her snake tail lashed out like an iron whip and slammed into Gongsun Duxio's body. Gongsun Duxio let out a muffled groan as she looked extremely terrified. I'm your aunt, you can't kill me. Gongsun Duxio was scared, and her barrier of her world had already started to crack slightly. Fix the sky. Gongsun Kai was indifferent, and the snake tail under her swept over with the power of fixing the sky, hitting Gongsun Duxio again and again. Gongsun Duxio's killing moves all missed, but she couldn't hit Gongsun Kai. Finally, with a crisp crack, Gongsun Kai's world barrier cracked and collapsed, and a legendary aura leaked out. No! Gongsun Duxio was terrified, and her face turned pale. She suddenly raised her head. Chapter 263. The vault of heaven suddenly cracked open. It was as if God had opened an eye, and endless darkness flowed out. Long black hair hung down and scattered. Seeing this, Gongsun Duxio was terrified. Cold sweat dripped from her head, and her face was pale. Help me, Granny Ma. Eunuch Sure, help me. Gongsun Duxio screamed in horror. Sure Weigui sighed and closed his eyes, indifferent. Ma Chuanjin turned her head away and sighed. The evils we bring upon ourselves are the hardest to bear. If we had known this would happen, we would not have done it in the first place. The long black hair swept over. Please let me go. Gongsun Duxio tried her best to attack, escape, and beg, but it was all in vain. In the end, she was pulled into the sky by the long black hair and disappeared into the depths of the crack. The sky brightened again. Shan Lian withdrew his gaze, pondered, and suddenly asked, Kai, did you see the long black hair? Gongsun Kai came back to herself. As a matter of fact, it was the first time that she had seen a legendary calamity. Naturally, she couldn't have been more shocked. She was stunned for a moment and said in surprise, What hair? What I saw was a lot of red, sticky tongues with many eyes on them. When they blinked, they oozed blood. Shan Lian's breath suddenly stopped, and he quickly turned to Sure Weigui. Before he could speak, Sure Weigui waved his hand and said, It doesn't matter what you saw. The legendary catastrophe is beyond imagination, mysterious, and unpredictable. You don't dare to speculate. The important thing is that you have to remember that once the legendary catastrophe comes, no one can stop it. Shun Lian asked, "What's behind the crack?" Shi Weigui shook his head and said, "I don't know. Maybe no one in this world knows." Shun Lian thought for a while, took out a black cobblestone, and handed it to Shi Weigui. "Look at this." Shi Weigui took it, and his pupils suddenly shrank. He exclaimed, "This is..." Ma Chunjin blurted out, "Oh my God, it's the Iron Curtain." Shi Weigui raised his head, fixed his eyes on Shun Lian, and asked, "Where did you get this?" Shun Lian smiled and said, "To be exact, I picked him up. I picked it up." Ma Chunjin raised his eyebrows with an incredulous look on his face. He exclaimed repeatedly, "This thing is the most precious treasure in the world. It's priceless. If you put it out there, those legendary old monsters would fight over it." Shun Lian's curiosity was piqued. "What is the use of the Iron Curtain?" Shi Weigui answered, "Opening the Iron Curtain, under the protection of the Iron Curtain, can allow the legendary Gu Master to use their legendary strength without restraint. Although it can only last for a few breaths of time, it is enough to make the legendary Gu Master invincible." Shun Lian was stunned for a moment. Then, he sneered and looked up at the sky. He was speechless. "Ingmu, you don't want to admit defeat." After a while, Shun Lian sighed and said with a smile, "Since the Iron Curtain is suitable for legendary Gu Masters, I will give it to the two guardians." Shi Weigui shook his head and returned the Iron Curtain. "If others don't offend me, I won't offend them. This is a passive ability. The result will be the same whether there is the Iron Curtain support or not." Shun Lian thought about it and agreed. He took back the Iron Curtain and showed the lightning totem on his shoulder. Unfortunately, the two guardians did not have any clues and could only give up for the time being. Soon after, they teleported back to Amber Lake. The battle for the succession of Northern Nether Palace had come to an end. Gong Sun Kai killed the traitor and officially took over the banner in front of everyone, becoming the new master of Northern Nether Palace. Northern Nether Palace's matter has been settled. Strike while the iron is hot, and go deal with the Swaylin of Goguryeo as well. Shun Lian's battle intent was high. It was fine if he did not make a move, but once he made a move, he wanted to kill to his heart's content. Gong Sun Kai immediately said, "I will help you. Northern Nether Palace has many experts in water battles and can be of great help." Shun Lian was about to nod when Shi Weigui suddenly said, "You have a grudge with the Swaylin of Goguryeo because you killed his son, Qi Lian, right?" Shun Lian lightly nodded. "The Swaylin of Goguryeo threatened to kill me a year ago. If I counterattack now, I should be able to catch him off guard and end this problem forever." Shi Weigui pondered for a while and said solemnly, "The Swaylin of Goguryeo's background is somewhat complicated. He has relations with the Gu Garden, the Demon Race, the Water Tribe, and the Sea Tribe. It is rumored that he has also been in contact with the 9 great aristocratic families of the Central Plains. In addition, the Swaylin of Goguryeo also controls the Heiha River that connects the North and the Central Plains. It is the bridge that balances the forces of the North and the Central Plains. It has the effect of reducing conflicts. Even if you have the ability to kill the Swaylin of Goguryeo, it may not be beneficial to you. Because once the Swaylin of Goguryeo dies, the impact will be huge. New Kuan happens to be at the bank of the Wei River in Ronghua City and will definitely be affected. Firstly, the river demons, lake demons, demons, and other water tribes will definitely take the opportunity to create chaos and will definitely affect the Wei River. Secondly, the Heiha River is a place that the military will definitely fight for. The Northern Demon Race will definitely want to occupy the Heiha River. The aristocratic families of the Central Plains will not allow this. If a war breaks out between the two places, the battlefield will definitely be at the Wei River and Ronghua City. You will also be affected. Thirdly, the Swaylin of Goguryeo has a strong background. If you kill him, you may anger the forces behind him and provoke more powerful enemies. There will be no end to this. Shun Lian said coldly, "The Swaylin of Goguryeo and I are sworn enemies. If he is not dead, I will not be at ease. If I'm not dead, how can he take revenge? Wei Gui waved his hand and said with a smile, "In fact, this is very easy to deal with. The left and right Dharma protectors can resolve a grudge. Anyway, the Swalan of Goguryeo has many sons and many of them have died. He has eaten several of them himself. He will not take revenge for a useless Chilian. You have to know that the Water Unicorn King clamored to kill you before because he couldn't let go of his face. At the same time, he wanted to take the opportunity to blackmail the furious Kuan gang to sacrifice the children to him. In short, he was very good at currying favor, but he definitely wouldn't have any deep father-son relationship with a certain son. This is actually not difficult to understand. The stronger the demon race is, the longer their lifespan. The Swalan of Goguryeo is a black water, mystical snake. He is very fertile and can give birth to a nest of babies every time. The more he gives birth, the more he will die. The death of a few sons is not a big deal. But now, the situation is completely different. Your strength definitely makes the Swalan of Goguryeo afraid. He does not want to be your enemy anymore. In addition, the two legendary Dharma protectors will go to the Water Kylan Palace to intimidate that old man. Let's see if he dares to not give us face. Shunlian was speechless. After thinking for a while, Shunlian nodded and said, "If he doesn't find trouble with me, I won't bother with him either." Wei Gui said, "Leave it to me. I'll wait for good news." After a short pause, he changed the topic and said, "Oh right, what's going on between you and the Fuyuan temple?" Shunlian hesitated for a while before telling him everything about Xiejun and the Buddha's Heart Gu. Buddha's Heart Gu, Wei Gui, and Ma Chuanjin were very surprised. Their faces showed that this problem was not easy to solve. Seeing this, Shunlian said, "I'll deal with the Fuyuan temple matter carefully. After all, their target is not me, but Xiejun." Wei Gui said seriously, "The Fuyuan temple is not a small matter. It's best if the Buddhist Holy Palace can negotiate with them." After a pause, he said, "I'll contact some old friends and see if they can mediate between them and turn hostility into friendship." Shunlian stopped worrying about this matter. Looking at Amber Lake, he suddenly asked, "It's hard to find an opportunity now. Is the Bayou Palace going to make a comeback?" Wei Gui and Ma Chuanjin looked at each other and asked, "The Lin and Huang aristocratic families have suffered great losses and are unable to lead the northern land. The situation is chaotic now. Next, in the northern land, there will be many heroes rising together. The smoke of war will not stop and the demons will be more serious. What do you think?" Shunlian put his hands behind his back and showed his ambition. He said, "I'll proclaim myself as the king of the north and prepare to rule the northern region. I'll clean up the old mountains and rivers, get rid of the demons, and rule the world. I'll establish my heart for heaven and earth and my life for the people. I'll inherit the lost knowledge of the past sages and create peace for all ages." Upon hearing this, Wei Gui could not help but be moved. Ma Chuanjin's emotions were also stirred, and her blood was boiling. Gong Sun Kai held Shunlian's hand and said shyly, "I'll hold your hand and stay by your side." Shunlian held her hand tightly and said seriously, "I'll lie on a beauty's lap when I'm drunk and hold the world's power when I'm awake. I'll never be lonely on the road to rule the world with you." Whoosh! Shunlian arrived with the wind and landed on New Kuan. At this time, the news of Shunlian's victory over Ingmuyu had not spread. New Kuan's level of power had not received any news. In the conference hall, Kong Yu, Bu Kong, and the elders were frowning. There was no other reason. They had just received the news of the destruction of the Fire Demon Basin. The Lin family had retreated and fled. The Fury Kuan gang had suddenly become an abandoned pawn. They had lost their backing. What would they do in the future? "I think we should find another backing as soon as possible," Gong Sun Ji said. "If the aristocratic families can't do it, there's still the sections." Yuanan said, "We're a gang in the Jianghu. We're porters who deliver resources to the upper class. There will always be some forces that need us." Bu Kong said, "Trust is the most important thing for all parties to use people. New Kuan has been deeply branded with Family Lin. How can other forces trust us so easily? It's easier for them to destroy us and support another gang. At this time, Rong Chun threw out a suggestion. I have a friend in the Crescent Moon sect on Junin Mountain. He can help us connect with the Crescent Moon sect. What do you all think? Liang Qizhu rolled his eyes and said coldly, that Crescent Moon sect is a demonic sect. Men in the sect are promiscuous and have harmed countless people. They have done a lot of evil. Isn't it suicide to connect with such a sect? Rong Chun had her own opinion. She smiled and said, times have changed. New Kuan has lost Family Lin. It's like a piece of raw meat with blood. Even a pack of wolves wants to pounce on it. Since we're going to be bitten anyway, why not let a sect that's willing to protect us do it? Liang Qizhu glanced at Rong Chun and sneered. It seems that Elder Rong has already made contact with the Crescent Moon sect. She knows how much flesh will be bitten off of her, and she also knows how much flesh will be bitten off of the furious Kuan gang. Rong Chun dismissed it with a smile and said in a deep voice, I'm doing this for the sake of the new Kuan gang and for everyone. Liang Qizhu, you're gauging the heart of a gentleman with the yardstick of a villain. Liang Qizhu narrowed his eyes and shouted, you're calling me a villain? Half a year ago, you, Yuan En, and Gong Sun Ji have been secretly communicating with the Crescent Moon sect. You're all jackals of the same tribe. Do you really think we're all blind? Rong Chun's expression stiffened. She looked around and found that everyone was coldly looking at the three of them. She chuckled and slowly stood up. Shaking her sleeves, she said indifferently, everyone, since you've heard some rumors, then I'll be frank. Family Lin is already finished. Our Shin Bangju is not coming back. Don't have any hope for him. In fact, there are some things I wanted to say half a year ago. The people who want to kill Shin Bangju are Ing Muyu, Northern Serene Palace, and Fai Yuan Temple. He definitely won't survive. Even if he escapes these 3 tribulations, he still has to face the attacks of the Sui Lin of Goguryeo, so he's dead for sure. A fine bird chooses a tree to nest in. The opportunity is hard to find. I've already planned a way out for everyone. The Crescent Moon sect is our future banner. Speaking up to here, a person walked in. He was wearing a large blood-red robe, and his hair was slightly white. His eyes were cold and ruthless, and he exuded a terrifying aura. Everyone's expression changed as if they had expected something. Their hearts thumped as they glared angrily at Rong Chun. Everyone, let me introduce you. This is the sect leader of the Crescent Moon sect, Rong Baimu. Speaking of which, I'm his nephew, Rong Chun said with a flattering smile. Rong Baimu coughed lightly and said with a smile, Family Lin is no longer here. Your sect leader, what's his name again? Oh, Shen Lian, right? In less than 3 days, you will receive news of his death. He glanced at everyone with contempt in his eyes. I heard from Rong Chun that you're in a difficult situation. I couldn't bear it and came to help. The sect can't be without a leader for a day. Let's elect a new sect leader first. Gong Sun Ji and Yuan En immediately said in unison, this subordinate thinks that Elder Rong Chun is outstanding in both qualifications and contributions. His prestige in the sect is also second to none. He is the best candidate for the new sect leader. Kong Yu couldn't bear it and said angrily, are you trying to collude with the Crescent Moon sect and usurp the throne? Rong Chun curled the corner of his mouth and looked at Kong Yu indifferently, as if he was looking at a dead man. Rong Baimu sneered. He raised his hand and waved his palm, condensed a mass of qi, and fiercely shot it out. The qi whistled and turned into a transparent palm print in the middle of the air, rushing over with a great palm wind. Kong Yu's feet seemed to be fixed. His beard fluttered, and he couldn't dodge. Elder Kong, Inbu Ling Kong, Liang Qizhu, and the others were anxious. At this moment, a figure suddenly flashed in front of Kong Yu and punched lightly, shattering the transparent palm print. Rong Baimu was surprised, and his expression changed slightly. Rong Chun's expression changed dramatically. His heart seemed to be seized by fear, and he shouted stiffly, Sect! Sect leader! Rong Baimu tilted his head and said in surprise, he is the Shen Lian. Kong Yu breathed a sigh of relief. He had just escaped death, and he quickly bowed. Balinkong and the others also stood up and saluted. They shouted in unison, "Greetings, sect leader! Long live sect leader!" Only Gong Sunji, Yuan In, and Rong Chun didn't move. Their faces were extremely ugly, and cold sweat was dripping down their backs. Chapter 264. Rong Chun said in a trembling voice, "You actually didn't die? Oh, you really want me to die?" Shun Lian chuckled, his gaze becoming more and more eerie, causing Rong Chun and the other two to tremble in horror. Shun Lian suddenly stared at Rong Bei Mu and licked his lips. His eyes reflected a deep cold light as he said in a deep voice, "Kneel down." Rong Bei Mu's eyes widened as he roared, "What did you say? You want me to kneel down to you?" Shun Lian said indifferently, "Your ears are not deaf. Kneel down and beg for mercy. Then lead the Crescent Moon sect to be under my command. If you do that, I may consider sparing your life." Rong Bei Mu flew into a rage, his eyes instantly turning gray as he brazenly attacked. Death Chi Gu, Death Dragon, shakes the heavens. A large amount of gray smoke spewed out from Rong Bei Mu's body, turning into a huge gray dragon that was 15 meters long. It roared as it rushed forward. Wherever it passed, the wind and clouds would blow and the potted plants would wither. "Trying to show off your slight skill in front of me. The Lord of the Undead, you're courting death." Shun Lian disdainfully waved his hand, and white flames appeared all over the place, spreading out in all directions. As soon as the undead fire appeared, the gray dragon seemed to be greatly tempted. It suddenly turned around and threw itself into the underworld fire. In a flash, it turned into a burning fire dragon and crawled in front of Shun Lian, intimately rubbing against his feet. Seeing this, Rong Bei Mu's expression was extremely shocked. Without thinking, he turned around and ran away. A mere gold-ranked level 6 dares to behave atrociously in my territory. Stay here. Shun Lian rushed out, teleported, and appeared above Rong Bei Mu's head. His 5 fingers grabbed his head and smashed it down. With a muffled bang, Rong Bei Mu fell head first, his head fiercely hitting the ground and creating a large hole. Rong Bei Mu let out a muffled groan. His head was bleeding. He wanted to struggle, but he suddenly felt that the pressure on his head was as heavy as a mountain, which made him unable to move at all. For a moment, he was extremely shocked. With a sinister smile, Shun Lian grabbed Rong Bei Mu's hair, pulled him up, and pressed him down. He made Rong Bei Mu's forehead and entire face come into close contact with the floor. He knocked Rong Bei Mu's head on the floor again and again. Bang! 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 Rong Bei Mu felt dizzy and his face was covered in blood. His face was badly mangled and disfigured. Only then did he realize how terrifying Shun Lian was. He regretted it so much that his intestines turned green. He wanted to cry, but no tears came out. He quickly cried out, "Association Master Shun, please spare my life. I was wrong. It was all Rong Chun's incitement that made me lose my head and come here. I just wanted to take advantage of you." Shun Lian curled his lips. "Have you learned how to kowtow?" Rong Bei Mu hurriedly knelt down and prostrated himself. Rong Bei Mu greets Shun Bangzhu and gang leader Qinxiu. Everyone was dumbfounded by this scene. The leader of the Devil Path sect, who wanted to kill Kong Yu a moment ago, was suppressed by Shun Lian, who suddenly returned. He knelt down like a dog being abused. The people of New Kuan didn't dare to imagine this even in their dreams. No one would believe it if they told others. Rong Chun and the other two were so scared that they wet their pants. They were terrified and pale. Rong Chun collapsed to the ground. Yuan was stiff all over. Gong Sunji saw that the situation was not good. He wanted to sneak away, but he was stopped by Liang Qizhu and others. Shun Lian dragged Rong Bei Mu back to the gang leader's throne and sat down. He said, "Rong Bei Mu, I'll give you a chance to live. Do you want it?" Rong Bei Mu's spirit was greatly lifted. He hurriedly wiped the blood on his eyelids and said with a flattering smile, "Yes, yes. Please tell me, gang leader. As long as I can do it, I can satisfy any of your conditions." Shun Lian smiled. White flames curled up in his palm as he played with it. He said, "I hope you can establish a depraved belief and embark on the path of pursuing decay. Accept the baptism of the undead fire and become a heroic spirit walking the world. Hearing this, Baimu's expression changed dramatically. He said in horror, "You want to refine me into an undead spirit?" Shun Lian emphasized, "You are a heroic spirit, a living undead spirit. When you are alive, you are the coffin that nourishes the undead fire. After you die, you are the companion of the undead fire." Baimu was in despair. He finally realized that he had to be willing to accept being refined into a heroic spirit. And once he was refined into a heroic spirit, he would become Shun Lian's undead servant. No matter if he was alive or dead, he would be Shun Lian's undead servant, like a crazy believer dedicating everything to the Lord of the Undead. How could Baimu accept such a condition? Even though he was a fierce and famous Gu master of the Devil Path, he was scared to death by Shun Lian's cruelty. He wanted to shout several times that he would rather die than submit. But Shun Lian sneered, "If you don't agree, then forget it. I will kill you and take everything from you. Then I will refine you into an undead spirit. The result will be the same." The big hand pressed down, and a majestic strength poured down. Baimu's hair stood on end. He struggled again and again, and finally gave up. He smiled bitterly. "This lowly one is willing. From now on, I will believe in the undead and pursue depravity. Decay is my eternal glory." Shun Lian laughed heartily and immediately pressed the undead fire into Baimu's head. Baimu showed a painful expression, but soon the painful expression gradually turned into serene and pious, and even a bit of eerie joy. At the same time, his eyes turned icy blue, and he breathed out cold air. He did not look like a living person. Shun Lian took back his hand. Baimu knelt in front of him again and said loudly, "Great Lord of the Undead, I am your devout servant. Please allow this lowly me to bring you endless blasphemy, supreme decay, and endless depravity." Shun Lian smiled with satisfaction and said, "You already have the undead fire seed in your body. Go, spread my faith, and let the undead sweep the world." Baimu said happily, "I will turn all the members of the Crescent Moon sect into undead spirits and become your most powerful subordinates." After saying that, Baimu stood up and walked toward Chun. With a whoosh, a white flame appeared in his palm. He said coldly, "Chun, join me and accept the baptism of the undead fire. You will bring supreme glory to the great Lord of the Undead." Chun was so scared that he cried. Tears flowed down his face, and he wailed, "Master, I am running for my life. Please punish me according to the rules of the sect for the sake of my hard work in the past." Yu said angrily, "You have rebelled and usurped the throne. You have committed a heinous crime. According to the rules of the sect, you should be punished with 3 knives and 6 holes." Chun cried, "I am an elder, and I have contributed to the sect for many years. I should receive some preferential treatment. I will only abolish my cultivation and expel you from the new koan. Is that okay?" Shun Lian was indifferent. Everyone was silent. Baimu grabbed Chun's throat and said indifferently, "Do you want to die? I tell you, in front of the great Lord of the Undead, death is not the end. Your corpse is still useful." Chun was completely desperate and agreed with tears. Baimu immediately instilled the fire of the undead into his body. After a while, Chun stood up expressionlessly. His eyes turned bleak blue. He stared coldly at Gongsun Ji and Yuanan and said, "Come and join us. The undead are eternal." Gongsun Ji wanted to die. After becoming an undead spirit, his humanity disappeared, leaving only a cold soul, a rotten body, and a devout heart to devote everything to the Lord of the Undead. It was really horrible. It made people's hair stand on end. However, Gongsun Ji did not want to die. Things had come to this point. He could not bear the evil that he had brought upon himself. He regretted it. After a bitter smile, he also accepted the baptism of the undead fire. Yuana was already numb. He only swore in his heart that he did not want to meet Shun Lian again in his next life. In the blink of an eye, Rong Baimu, Rong Chun, and the other two turned into undead spirits. Shun Lian laughed eerily. Go, my servants. Spread my faith and create an undead army for me. Rong Baimu brought Rong Chun and the other two and left, heading towards Crescent Moon Sect. Shun Lian watched them leave, feeling somewhat happy. He thought to himself, Bone Spirit Goo has already evolved to gold rank 10. Next, I need to store more resources. Refining undead spirits to nourish the fire of the undead is no doubt the best way. Advancing to legend depended on accumulating resources. However, this method was too cruel and terrifying. It would easily attract the crusade of the righteous path. Rong Baimu is a demonic path Goo master. I will let him deal with those demonic path forces first and expand our forces. When the undead army is formed, who can stop me? Shun Lian thought. Soon after, Shun Lian gathered everyone for a discussion. He briefly said, Ingmuyu has already been killed by me. Family Lin has been defeated, and Family Huang has suffered great losses. Right now, the northern lands are without a leader. It is the best time for new Kuan to rise. Saying so, Shun Lian sat on the throne and said in a clear voice, From now on, I am the king of the north. Are you willing to follow me to attack the four directions, expel the demons, recover the lost lands, unify the northern lands, and restore order? Everyone was shocked. How could they have thought that Shun Lian was the return of the king of the north? They could not help but be overwhelmed with emotions. They steeled their hearts to follow him and shouted, Long live the king of the north! Shun Lian smiled with satisfaction. Nearly 70% of the northern lands are Family Lin's territory. We need to quickly take over all of it and consolidate our territory before expanding outwards. He continued, Don't worry, I will raise your strength. With me around, all of you will be able to advance to gold rank. Everyone was overjoyed when they heard this, and they offered suggestions one after another. Soon, they sorted out a set of feasible plans and acted according to the order. After the meeting ended, Shun Lian returned to his study room. He then flashed into Wushang Inn and went to Hong Yang's room. The moment he opened the door, sure enough, Hong Yang was already waiting for him in the room. You survived. Hong Yang's face was still covered with light, but her tone could not conceal the great shock and indescribable joy. Yes, I survived. Shun Lian let out a long sigh of relief. His expression was slightly complicated. Hong Yang looked at him deeply. After a while, she said, You have changed. You're no longer the original you. Shun Lian was surprised and smiled. You can tell. Hong Yang said, The wedding dress Goo comes in pairs. When you change, the wedding dress will also change. I don't know what happened to you in this year, but I can feel that you are no longer the original you. Shun Lian sighed. I hope this is a good thing. I urgently need the wedding dress Goo to grow and expand my strength. Hong Yang nodded. Then you and I will continue to cooperate and try to evolve the wedding dress Goo to gold rank 10 as soon as possible. Shun Lian said, I have a premonition that the wedding dress Goo will advance to gold rank 10 in a short while. I hope so. Hong Yang was silent for a while. Suddenly, she changed the topic. Granny wants to see you. Qing Xiu Holy Land's Fox Demon Granny. Shun Lian raised his brows. She also wants the king's jade? Hong Yang shook her head. With your current strength, who would dare to snatch the king's jade from you? Granny wants to cooperate with you? She paused. You and I are you and I. I cannot represent Qing Xiu Holy Land. Granny is the owner of Qing Xiu Holy Land. Shun Lian understood. His discussion with Granny would involve Qing Xiu Holy Land. This meant that Shun Lian might have the opportunity to use the strength of the entire Fox clan. Chapter 265. Seeing Shun Lian being so straightforward, Hong Yang did not say anything and sat opposite him. Almost at the next moment, the two felt the wedding dress Goo in their bodies moving restlessly, brimming with endless joy. After a year, the two wedding dress Goo reunited again. It felt like absence makes the heart grow fonder. The wedding dress Goo has indeed become somewhat different. Shun Lian carefully savored it. He was half human, half demon, with a unique physique and unique aura. The wedding dress goo was indeed not the original wedding dress goo. Shun Lian slowly let out a breath of turbid air and stabilized his mind. Next, the wedding dress goo flew out of his body, turning into a stream of light and entering Hong Yang's body, entering the other wedding dress goo's aperture. The two wedding dress goo reunited and were incomparably intimate, swimming in the dense snow-silver primeval essence, playing with each other with boundless joy. Instantly, the snow-silver primeval essence that was like a surging ocean had a strange change. It actually started to boil and turned into a rolling pink mist of primeval essence that spread out. Whoosh whoosh. The snow-silver primeval essence also started to flow out uncontrollably. Hong Yan's expression changed. She quickly communicated with the wedding dress goo, but found that everything was under her control. There was nothing wrong with the wedding dress goo. A huge amount of pink fog gushed out and rushed towards Shun Lian's face. Shun Lian also noticed that something was happening at Hong Yang's side. Suddenly, he saw the thick pink fog gushing out. He opened his mouth and nose and inhaled all of it into his body. It dispersed into his limbs and bones. At that moment, Shun Lian only felt hot air rushing up his body. His whole body slightly trembled like he was electrocuted. He was extremely excited. Shun Lian's eyes were burning with fire. After the pink mist circulated in his body, its density increased by more than 3 times, finally splitting into 2. One gathered in the wedding dress goo's aperture and settled down, while the other was exhaled from his mouth and inhaled by Hong Yang. The auras were connected. The cycle was endless. This was the whole process of the wedding dress goo dual cultivation. What's going on? Hong Yang was shocked. The pink mist that flowed back was too dense. It was like she was injected with chicken blood, causing her to fall into a crazily comfortable state. The second round began. The density of the pink mist continued to soar after a full cycle, becoming 5 to 6 times the original density. It was condensed and sublimated, bringing about an incomparable stimulation and comfort that made people unable to stop. Matchmaker is a demon, and I have become half a demon. To a certain extent, the two wedding dress goo have found the same frequency and entered the stage of rapid growth. Shun Lian's thoughts flashed as he quickly thought of this possibility. The wedding dress goo should be a dual cultivation between 2 humans or 2 demons to be more harmonious. After all, there were too many differences between humans and demons. Unknowingly, a day had passed. The progress of this day's dual cultivation was equivalent to half a month's progress in the past. Wedding dress goo, gold rank 1. In just a day's time, he had evolved from silver ranked level 8 to gold ranked. Such a terrifying evolution speed was really unbelievable, and it made people go crazy. Hong Yang was extremely excited. Wedding dress goo has never grown so quickly before. Shun Lian's lips curled into a smile. There are 3 reasons. Firstly, the wedding dress goo's dual cultivation characteristic. Secondly, the wedding dress goo had once evolved to gold-ranked level 8. This is the recovery process. Thirdly, I have undergone a transformation, and my body is as strong as a demon. Hong Yang thought about it and could not help but be overjoyed. In that case, it could be considered a blessing in disguise, and I have advanced a step further. Shun Lian thought about it and said seriously, the wedding dress goo might have undergone a qualitative transformation, and the abilities it can display might have also changed. Tell me in detail what abilities the wedding dress goo has. Hong Yang pondered for a while and said, the wedding dress goo is a dual cultivation goo, 1 male and 1 female, and its usage is not ordinary. For example, rumors say that the wedding dress goo can split infinitely, but that is not accurate. To be exact, only I, the female goo, can split infinitely. Shun Lian's heart skipped a beat. Just based on this point, the control of using the wedding dress goo in the future would be completely in Hong Yang's hands, which was very disadvantageous to him. He could only blame himself for being careless, believing the rumors in books, and not verifying them. Hong Yang paused for a while and said, "Are you thinking that this is disadvantageous to you?" Shun Lian smiled. "I don't want to be hypocritical with you, but this situation does seem to be disadvantageous to me. Don't be anxious, let me finish." Hong Yang lightly waved her hand and continued. "The female gu can split infinitely into child gu to expand the wedding dress divine sect, but the female gu cannot retrieve the primeval essence produced by the child gu. Only the male gu can. That is to say, the female gu needs the male gu's primeval essence to nourish it, otherwise it will starve to death. This is also the reason why the wedding dress gu in my body is continuously declining from gold-ranked rank 8. Shun Lian's mood immediately became much better, saying, "Let's cooperate. We are in the same boat." "That is correct." Hong Yang nodded. "Thus, between you and me, there is no difference between who is superior and who is inferior. Only by working together can we open up the future. No one can leave the other." Shun Lian was relieved and thought for a while before saying, "I want to find someone to test if the child gu has mutated." Hong Yang said, "Actually, there is no need to rush this. According to our progress, it is only a matter of time before the wedding dress gu evolves to gold-ranked rank 10. She paused for a while. "Although the female gu can split infinitely into child gu, the prerequisite is that the male gu has abundant primeval essence. In other words, splitting the child gu is exhausting to both of us. We cannot act recklessly." Shun Lian also wanted to speed up the wedding dress gu's evolution, so he could only give up for now and leave the inn. After returning to the study room, Shun Lian thought about how to meet with Grandma, who, thinking, "The other party is too strong. I cannot interchange Xiao Holy Land rashly. I need a proper plan." After thinking for a while, Shun Lian suddenly thought of a person. Nu Kuan was filled with talents. One of their members had a special gu. It might be of great use at this juncture. "Men, summon Yi Shou," Shun Lian said. Yi Shou was a burly man with a face full of stubble. He loved to drink to the extent that he drank until he was broke. He was so poor that he even used Nu Kuan's special robes to exchange for wine. For this reason, he received 50 beatings and was almost chased out of Nu Kuan. "Corner, let me tell you, my father is a grand genius. He was the one who gave me my name, Yi Shou. How elegant! Every word is worth 1,000 gold. My family was once glorious, and my name is the proof." When Yi Shou said this, he was picking at his nose, completely lacking in elegance. The person listening to him was Yi Shou's drinking buddy, Corner of the Song Dynasty. Hearing this, Corner of the Song Dynasty rolled his eyes and smiled bitterly. "Get lost. I don't have any wine for you to drink. You drank until you were broke. My salary for this month is not even enough to eat. I won't lend you a single word." Yi Shou laughed and said, "Why are you in such a hurry? Did I ask you to lend me money? As a stingy brother, it's immoral to talk about money." Corner of the Song Dynasty lifted his leg and was about to leave. Yi Shou quickly stopped him and smiled. "I'm not asking you to lend me money." "Well, I heard that you're friends with Li Youxiang. Can you introduce me to her?" Corner of the Song Dynasty was speechless. "You are so shameless. You actually want to make a move on a little girl." Yi Shou said seriously, "You are thinking the wrong way. I am sincerely asking her to teach me the art of drinking. You just want to cheat a girl of her wine. Shameless." Corner of the Song Dynasty was extremely disdainful. At this time, Li Youxiang walked over with a wine jar in her arms. She recognized Corner of the Song Dynasty and waved her hand. "Uncle Song, come and have a sip of my newly brewed wine." Yi Shou rushed over and laughed. Corner of the Song Dynasty is forbidden to drink, especially today when he is having his period. It is even more inappropriate for him to drink. I will drink it for him. Li Youxiang glanced at Corner of the Song Dynasty, who was speechless. She hesitated and smiled. "Then I will give it to you." Yi Shou immediately grabbed the wine jar and drank a big mouthful. Suddenly, he felt that the taste was not right, so he slowly swallowed it and asked curiously, "What wine is this? It tastes so strange." Li Youxiang said seriously, This is my newly developed method of brewing wine. It uses fresh horse urine, dried cow dung, the bitterest mugwort, and the spiciest chili pepper. Then, it is placed in the crotch of old Wang next door and fermented for 44 days. It is called strange flavor wine, so of course it tastes strange. Yi Jishou vomited. Corner of the Song Dynasty laughed so hard that his stomach hurt. Yi Jishou cried. Corner of the Song Dynasty, you and Li Youxiang are teaming up to trick me. Corner of the Song Dynasty crossed his arms in front of his chest. Return me the money for the wine you borrowed from me last month and the month before that. Otherwise, I have ways to make you quit drinking. Yi Jishou glared at him. You want me to quit drinking? Why don't you just kill me? At this moment, someone rushed over and said, Who is Yi Jishou? The leader is calling for you. Come with me. Yi Jishou was shocked and said in a panic, I am. Why is the leader looking for me? Cut the crap. Let's go. The person said anxiously. Yi Jishou quickly put down the wine jar and glared at Corner of the Song Dynasty and Li Youxiang before following nervously. Why is the Shun Lian looking for this drunkard? Li Youxiang asked in surprise. Corner of the Song Dynasty raised his eyebrows. Why are you calling the leader by his name? No, he is the king of the north. Li Youxiang laughed. In front of outsiders, I call Shun Lian young master. This is my privilege. Corner of the Song Dynasty was speechless. Li Youxiang's eyes flickered. Let's go. Bring me to the tunnel for you to play. The so-called tunnel was a strange tunnel evolved from the Corner of the Song Dynasty's escape tunnel goo. It was a tunnel with no end. Originally, only the Corner of the Song Dynasty could enter and exit it. But after this goo evolved, the Corner of the Song Dynasty could bring others in. That tunnel became Li Youxiang's pleasure. Corner of the Song Dynasty nodded and held Li Youxiang's hand. The two suddenly disappeared from the spot without a sound. Yi Jishou arrived at the fifth-floor study room in fear and trepidation. He paid his respects to the king of the north. Shun Lian looked at Yi Jishou. He was dressed casually and was dirty. He did not have the aura of a new Kuan member at all. Instead, he looked like a beggar. How long has it been since you received your salary? Shun Lian's expression darkened. Yi Jishou blushed with shame and said, I received it. Every month. Shun Lian was speechless. Then you have a habit of not caring about your appearance. Yi Jishou, Dan, bad appearance, fresh, file, fed, with green ammonia. Dyed PD, acrypoid, swapping ding. How Huang, Kong Ba Jishou Di Shi. Fang Jishou Shun Lian had already smelled the pungent smell of wine. He curled his lips and thought, no matter where you are, there will always be some people waiting to die. Forget it, I will just treat it as training an army for 1,000 days to use it for 1 day. Shun Lian's expression did not change. He did not look at him with disgust and only asked, Yi Jishou, is your main goo the holographic goo? Yi Jishou quickly replied, It is the holographic goo. This goo can perform holographic projection. Saying so, Yi Jishou's body flashed, and another Yi Jishou appeared beside him. It could be seen that this Yi Jishou was a fusion of light and shadow. Shun Lian's gaze brightened and asked, How far can you project the holographic light and shadow? Yi Jishou, I have not tested it, but there is no problem within 30,000 li good. Shun Lian smiled excitedly. Black River Estuary. Wei River was a tributary of Black River. The intersection of Wei River and Black River led to Central Plains. Because of its special location, Black River Estuary became a battleground for militarists. And the overlord of this area was the Suilin of Goguryeo. The left and right protectors came to Black River Estuary, and Sure Weigawei shouted, Suilin of Goguryeo, an old friend has come a visit. Black River Estuary was vast and mighty. The river water was turbid and black. Once Sure Weigawei finished speaking, the river water naturally parted like a curtain and revealed a wide road paved with pearls. The pearls were plump and were the size of a fist. It could be said to be extremely luxurious. This Suilin of Goguryeo is still so extravagant. Ma Chuanjin looked at those pearls with disdain. Sure Weigawei sighed. In the world's wealth, the sea tribe is at the top, followed by the water tribe. Sualin of Goguryeo controls Wei River's water tribe and also has the advantage of Black River estuary. He has the opportunity to plunder the northern land and central plains. Naturally, he has accumulated countless wealth. Saying so, the left and right protectors stepped on the Pearl Road and walked to the end. As far as the eye could see, there was a magnificent crystal palace on the other side of the wall. It was sparkling and translucent, shining brightly and extremely luxurious. Ma Chuanjin said in surprise, "Isn't only the dragon tribe qualified to live in the crystal palace? Sualin of Goguryeo is so daring." Shi Weiguei also raised his eyebrows and said, "We haven't seen each other for more than 200 years. Sualin of Goguryeo is so daring. Two old friends, we are honored to have you here. Your presence brings light to Water Unicorn Palace." A cloud of hidden fog suddenly flew over and turned into a black-robed old man. His laughter was so loud that it was deafening. The left and right protectors cupped their hands and said, "Sualin of Goguryeo is lucky." The black-robed old man was Sualin of Goguryeo. He laughed and said, "You two old friends are my confidants. Don't be shy. Treat this place as your own home. Please come in. The banquet has been prepared." Shi Weiguei said with a smile, "Sualin of Goguryeo, you are too polite." The Water Qilin King said seriously, "When I received Brother Su's invitation yesterday, I was overjoyed. I organized the banquet overnight, but I still feel that it was rushed. If there is anything I did not take care of, please forgive me, Brother Su and sister-in-law." Shi Weiguei said that he didn't dare. After they took their seats, they saw that the banquet was full of delicacies, wine, and food. It was dazzling. Shi Weiguei looked around the huge crystal palace and praised, "The Water Unicorn Palace is sacred beyond compare. Sualin of Goguryeo is so generous." Sualin of Goguryeo waved his hand and said, "It's not worth mentioning. How can it compare to Bayou Palace, which has been standing for thousands of years?" After 3 rounds of wine and 5 dishes, Shi Weiguei returned to the topic and said with a smile, "Old friend, I'll be frank. I hope you can do me a favor and resolve the grudge between you and Shenlian." Sualin of Goguryeo wiped his mouth and said, "Old friend, your favor is precious. Of course I will do you a favor. However, Shenlian killed my son." Shi Weiguei remained calm and said with a smile, "Shenlian is deeply sorry about this. He wanted to visit Sualin of Goguryeo many times. I was afraid that you would blame him, so I tried to dissuade him. Finally, he asked me to pass on his apology." Sualin of Goguryeo was slightly shocked. He heard the threat in Shi Weiguei's words. He squinted and laughed. "My Water Unicorn Palace is not a place where anyone can come and go." Shi Weiguei joked, "The Crystal Palace is fragile. Can it withstand one punch from Shenlian?" Sualin of Goguryeo's eyes turned cold. After a moment of silence, he said with a smile, "I have always been magnanimous. Since Shenlian sincerely apologizes, I won't pursue this matter." Shi Weiguei clapped his hands and said with a smile, "Sualin of Goguryeo, auspicious." The banquet was coming to an end. The left and right guardians left. Sualin of Goguryeo saw them off with a smile. After that, Sualin of Goguryeo returned to the palace. His face was completely gloomy. He suddenly said to the air, "Come out." Chapter 266. Huang Yingluo was wearing a pink off-shoulder dress. She elegantly held a hookah in her hand and held it between her lips. Smoke rose in spirals, giving people a dreamy feeling. Song of the Oriole was as white as snow. Her waterfall hair was in front of her chest. She played with it gently with her fingers, looking innocent. Sualin of Goguryeo glanced at the Huang sisters and said in a low voice, "You all heard it. I have promised Su Weiguei that I will no longer find trouble with Shenlian. Family Huang, if you want to deal with Shenlian, please find someone else." Huang Yingluo took a puff from the hookah. Her red lips gently exhaled white smoke. She said slowly, "Sualin of Goguryeo, your son's life was lightly brushed aside with an apology. I don't know if Sualin of Goguryeo is really magnanimous, or if he really doesn't take you seriously. Suelin of Goguryeo laughed. Sowing discord is useless against me. What's done can't be undone. I originally thought that Shenlian was just an insignificant person. When I heard that Muyu wanted to kill him, I didn't care about this person who was bound to die. Who would have thought that Shenlian killed Muyu instead? His name shook the world and changed everything. The winner is king. On land, I am no match for Shenlian. In the water, I have to pay a huge price to kill Shenlian. After thinking about it, Shenlian is already qualified to be on equal footing with me. He also has the left and right protectors of Beiyu Palace behind him. It's not worth it to continue fighting with him. It's better to turn hostility into friendship. Huang Yingluo said with a smile. A wise man submits to circumstances. Even so, Suelin of Goguryeo, is Suelin of Goguryeo really willing? Shenlian is powerful and has the undead army in his hands. He has a lot of talents under his command. He claims to be the king of the north and has the intention of unifying the north. Let me ask you, if Shenlian really unifies the north and becomes the new king of Beiyu, can Suelin of Goguryeo still sleep peacefully? Suelin of Goguryeo's eyes flashed. He said in a low voice, "Oh, what do you think?" Huang Yingluo said, "In the Battle of Fire Basin, Family Lin was defeated and Family Huang suffered heavy casualties. Result: although Family Huang didn't get Family Lin's water resources, Family Huang fought all the way and swept dozens of aristocratic families. They seized a lot of water resources. I admit that the overall strength of the aristocratic families in the north has indeed weakened, but Family Huang is still strong. They have a lot of clansmen and are strong. They are worthy of being the #1 aristocratic family in the north. How can a monkey like Shenlian be the king?" Suelin of Goguryeo narrowed his eyes. "Since you said that Family Huang suffered heavy casualties, where did the clansmen come from?" "As far as I know, in the Battle of Fire Basin, Family Huang lost nearly 80% of its main force." Huang Yingluo smiled and said, "That is true. Family Huang's clansmen did die a lot. But you only know one thing and don't know the other. Family Huang's bloodline goo is a zombie goo. This goo is strange beyond imagination. Let me ask you, what is a zombie? It refers to when a person's corpse is in a place where the baleful aura is too strong and mutates. Let me ask you, what is a bloodline? Is the blood of the ancestors flowing in the blood vessels? Then the question is the blood in the zombie's body still flowing?" Suelin of Goguryeo's breathing suddenly stopped, and he asked in astonishment, "Then what is Family Huang's bloodline inheritance?" Huang Yingluo's lips curled into a sly smile. Family Huang's bloodline inheritance is very special. The clansmen never rely on reproduction to reproduce. Family Huang has a unique method, similar to the blood exchange method, which can transform the clansmen into their own clansmen. That is to say, anyone can become a member of Family Huang and inherit Family Huang's bloodline goo, fighting for Family Huang. Suelin of Goguryeo's expression changed, and he said in shock, "There are many Family Lin in the north, but Family Huang is the only one who dares to challenge Family Lin. They won unstoppably all the way until the end. It seems that there is a reason for this." Huang Yingluo said proudly, "With sufficient resources, Family Huang's strength has no upper limit. The master of the north will only be Family Huang. As for Shenlian, he is just a clown after all." Song of the Oriole at the side smiled and said, "Suelin of Goguryeo should know who is more beneficial for you to cooperate with." Suelin of Goguryeo thought for a while and suddenly said with deep meaning, "Even so, as long as Shenlian doesn't die, the north will not be surnamed Huang, right?" Huang Yingluo covered her mouth and chuckled. "Suelin of Goguryeo has bad intentions. You want to use Family Huang to take revenge for your son. It seems that you also see Shenlian as a threat. Since that is the case, if both sides cooperate, that Shenlian will definitely die." Suelin of Goguryeo showed an unfathomable expression and said, "I have already promised Su Wei, so I can't do anything." Huang Yingluo waved her hand and said, "Suelin of Goguryeo doesn't need to do anything. You just need to provide some assistance. Although we sisters are weak women, we have our advantages. Leave the killing of Shenlian to us." Suelin of Goguryeo became spirited and smiled. I have always been willing to help others. Huang Ingluo slowly said, You know, my sister and I both have a Lai Gu. This Gu is a detection-type Gu and does not have much use. If anyone speaks to us, we can instantly know if they are lying or not. That is all. Recently, we obtained a mystical Gu refinement recipe. When Lai Gu and Announce Gu are refined together, they can be refined into Rumor Gu. This Gu is extremely mystical and has great power. I'm sure you have heard of it. Suelin of Goguryeo sucked in a breath of cold air and frowned. Rumor Gu is extremely harmful and is hated by the world. It has already been classified as a demonic path Gu, and refining this Gu is a taboo. Anyone who possesses Rumor Gu will be attacked by the world. Rumor has it that the recipe to refine Rumor Gu had already been destroyed hundreds of years ago. It should not be left in the world. Are you sure that recipe is real? Huang Ingluo lowered her head and said, I do not dare to hide it from Suelin of Goguryeo. Family Huang has fought everywhere and plundered countless things. Coincidentally, we obtained that Gu refinement recipe from a declining family. After careful inspection, we have confirmed that there is no mistake. Suelin of Goguryeo was tongue-tied. Lai Gu is extremely rare and can only be created by someone who has never told the truth in their entire life. But you sisters each have one. Announce Gu is a sound wave type Gu. It is a mystical Gu that only dolphins and mermaids have. It is also extremely precious and hard to find. I only have a few of them. These two Gu are support type Gu and do not have strong attack power. But once they are refined, they can create the extremely vicious and sinister Rumor Gu. Suelin of Goguryeo raised her head and sighed. Once Rumor Gu appears, I'm afraid Xinlian will be doomed. Huang Ingluo lightly breathed out smoke and said with a smile, That is why Suelin of Goguryeo and family Huang are a match made in heaven. One is the king of the water tribe, while the other is the king of the land. Family Huang will help Suelin of Goguryeo block the threat from Shuiyao Mountain, while Suelin of Goguryeo will help family Huang block the threat from the Central Plains. Both sides will benefit from each other. Isn't that perfect? Suelin of Goguryeo seemed to be somewhat hesitant and said with a smile, Announce Gu is extremely precious. It is not with me, but with the princess consort. If I ask the princess consort for the two Announce Gu, I'm afraid she will become suspicious. Huang Ingluo kept her hookah and quickly took off her outer clothes, revealing her mature and beautiful body. She walked towards Suelin of Goguryeo and entered his embrace, smiling. I believe Suelin of Goguryeo will have a way, right? Song of the Oriole also took off her clothes. Her body was slightly young, but had a unique charm. She also threw herself into Suelin of Goguryeo's embrace, smiling. Suelin of Goguryeo, I'm still a jade body. You have to be gentle. Don't worry, beauties. I am the most gentle. Suelin of Goguryeo hugged the two beauties in his arms and laughed heartily. He directly carried the two beauties into the bedroom, as if he could not wait any longer. Inside the bedroom, fragrant sweat dripped down. After Suelin of Goguryeo tasted the beauties, he indeed took out two Announce Gu. This Gu was shaped like a conch shell, and one could faintly hear the sound of the sea. Huang Ingluo immediately took out Lai Gu. This Gu was shaped like a human face, with distorted facial features and an extremely large mouth. Refining Rumor Gu is very simple. The success rate is also extremely high. There is basically no chance of failure. Huang Ingluo's expression was solemn. He took out the Announce Gu and threw it into Lai Gu's mouth. Immediately, Lai Gu let out a strange light, dazzling everyone's eyes. A moment later, the light faded. Suelin of Goguryeo's gaze focused, showing great surprise on his face. Refinement succeeded. Rumor Gu was born. It was shaped like a human face with golden teeth. It had a serious expression and a sincere expression, giving people a sense of trust. Me too. Song of the Oriole immediately took out her own Lai Gu and started the refinement. The result was the same as before. The refinement also succeeded. Suelin of Goguryeo asked curiously, How do I use Rumor Gu? Huang Ingluo lit his hookah and lightly blew on it, saying, Suelin of Goguryeo, I'll have to trouble you to find a subordinate." Swalen of Goguryeo clapped his hands, and immediately 2 shrimp soldiers ran in, awaiting his orders. Huang Yingluo only called 1 shrimp soldier over and waved his hand to chase away the other shrimp soldier, asking, "What is your name?" The shrimp soldier replied, "Qing Shi." "What is your leader's name?" "Qing Hao." "Qing Shi, I hope you can help me spread a rumor. Find any 2 shrimp soldiers and tell them, even if you personally saw Qing Hao having an affair with the princess consort, you must make them believe your rumor." This, Qing Shi was extremely stunned, quickly looking at Swalen of Goguryeo. Swalen of Goguryeo nodded in agreement, and Qing Shi left with the order. Qing Shi went outside and pretended to be in a hurry, finding his 2 good friends, and said mysteriously, "Oh no, oh no, guess what I saw just now?" A shrimp soldier asked curiously, "What did you see?" Qing Shi looked around like a thief, and then deliberately lowered his voice, saying nervously, "I personally saw Leader Qing Hao enter the princess consort's bedroom, and then he hugged the princess consort and went onto the bed." The 2 shrimp soldiers were extremely shocked and did not dare to believe it, exclaiming, "How can this be?" Qing Shi said seriously, "If I did not see it with my own eyes, I would not believe it even if I was beaten to death." The 2 shrimp soldiers saw this and were already 70% convinced. They looked at each other speechlessly. Qing Shi continued, "If you don't believe me, you can go to the princess consort's bedroom to take a look. I was afraid of being discovered by Qing Hao and being silenced, so I did not dare to continue prying." The 2 shrimp soldiers did not dare to go, but they completely believed Qing Shi. Almost in the next moment, the 3 shrimp soldiers only felt that their bodies suddenly became hot and dry, uncontrollably releasing a large amount of aura, rolling and gushing up, gathering above their heads, condensing, hovering, and turning into a ferocious human-faced tiger. "What is this thing?" Qing Shi and the 2 shrimp soldiers were all shocked. The human-faced tiger had a tiger body and a human face, and the face was none other than Leader Qing Hao. After the human-faced tiger appeared out of thin air, it directly ignored Qing Shi and the 3 shrimp soldiers, and suddenly ran in a direction. Qing Shi and the other 2 shrimp soldiers were stunned, and hurriedly followed. After a while, the human-faced tiger ran all the way, rushing to a patrol team. "What is this thing?" The leader of this patrol team was Qing Hao, and he was really shocked when he saw the human-faced tiger. The human-faced tiger landed in front of Qing Hao, and the whole human face was twisted to the extreme, showing ferociousness, which made Qing Hao's hair stand on end. Suddenly, the human-faced tiger pounced, close to Qing Hao, and its sharp claws tore at him. Qing Hao was extremely frightened. He roared and fought with all his strength. "Kill this monster." Seeing this, the other shrimp soldiers also attacked, surrounding and attacking the human-faced tiger. However, for some reason, the shrimp soldiers' attacks were all ineffective against the human-faced tiger. Only Qing Hao could injure it. But the human-faced tiger was extremely ferocious. Its attacks were crazy. Qing Hao was no match for it, and soon fell into a disadvantage, being torn apart alive by the human-faced tiger. After Qing Hao died, the human-faced tiger roamed around for a while before gradually turning into a lump of smoke, disappearing without a trace, as if it had never appeared. Seeing this, Swalen of Goguryeo was extremely shocked and exclaimed, "As expected of a rumor gu, it is truly terrifying. They say rumors kill people. This saying is true indeed." Chapter 267. Hearing this, Swalen of Goguryeo's expression changed. He was extremely shocked. Human-faced tiger can reproduce without limit. Huang Yingluo nodded, smiling. Rumors originate from people's hearts. As long as there are enough people, it can form a huge public opinion and give birth to countless human-faced tigers that could devour anyone. Song of the Oriole smiled. It is precisely because rumor gu is so terrifying that it can easily destroy a city or even a country that it is feared by people and listed as an extreme taboo. I have heard of rumor gu's terror many times, but I did not expect rumor gu to be so terrifying. Swalen of Goguryeo felt his scalp turning numb. regretting that he had lustful thoughts and actually helped the Huang sisters refine such an evil rumor goo. If one day I fall out with family Huang, wouldn't today's actions be self-inflicted? Suilin of Goguryeo thought to himself, quickly laughing to conceal the panic in his heart. Next, he asked curiously, I still do not understand. How did rumor goo create human-faced tigers? He wanted to understand the secrets of rumor goo and make preparations for the future. Huang Yingluo's gaze flickered. He asked instead of answering, May I ask what is rumor? Suilin of Goguryeo thought for a while, replying, Rumor is the use of lies to slander others. Huang Yingluo shook his head, saying seriously, Wrong. The rumor itself has nothing to do with the truth. The important thing is the rumor creator and the content of the rumor. For example, Qing Shi spread the rumor that Qing Hao and the princess consort are having an affair. There are 3 possibilities. First, they are really having an affair. Second, they are not having an affair. Third, they are not having an affair, but are hiding other secrets. For example, they are plotting to kill Suilin of Goguryeo. To the rumor creator, the truth is not important. What is important is that the rumor creator is very clear that they are spreading the rumor. They can directly use terrifying lies or distort the known truth. There are many methods, but the result is the same. That is, the rumors are targeted at a certain person or a certain group. The goal is very clear, and the public pressure formed by the rumors is used to slander them. Suilin of Goguryeo understood. 3 men make a tiger. One of them must be the rumor monger. He knows very well that he is making a rumor. The other one is just a rumor monger. Huang Yingluo nodded and said, That's right. Therefore, those who spread rumors are always the minority. Those who spread rumors are the main targets of attack. It is precisely because of this that when a certain rumor collapses on its own, the pressure of public opinion will be automatically lifted. It can be said that success depends on the number of people, and failure depends on the number of people. Suilin of Goguryeo couldn't help but tease. If that's the case, what if the Shun Lian has the goo to refute rumors? Wouldn't your efforts be in vain? Huang Yingluo declined to comment and said with a smile, A goo that has the power to refute rumors is none other than a teacher or saint-type goo. The person who has such a goo has a noble temperament, high moral character, and high prestige. They have great prestige among the people and are revered by the world. The Shun Lian fishes for fame and cultivates the undead. Most of his subordinates are cockroaches and rats. They're the best targets for the rumor goo. Suilin of Goguryeo thought about it and agreed, asking, When are you going to make a move? Huang Yingluo smiled and said, Rumors do not take root without soil. It is best if there are enough real events to guide the rumor goo to display its strongest power. We will need Suilin of Goguryeo's help in this. Suilin of Goguryeo raised his eyebrows and said, How can I help you? Huang Yingluo said, Suilin of Goguryeo's main goo is the pox goo. It is a notorious pestilence-type goo. We are requesting you to create an unprecedented plague disaster. Then we will create rumors and shift the blame to the Shun Lian. With enough human-faced tigers, we will be able to kill him in one fell swoop. Suilin of Goguryeo's heart shook. Goo Garden. Wanyin stood in front of the desk, holding a brush and pondering. Shuangshi was grinding ink at the side. A moment later, Wanyin wrote the word human on the paper, and below it he wrote aristocratic family, sect, and Shunlian. Seeing this, Shuangshi sighed. Her expression was extremely complex as she sighed. Who would have thought that the Shun Lian would be able to stand shoulder to shoulder with the aristocratic families and sections? Wanyin was expressionless. The battle between Lin and Huang clan ended too abruptly, much earlier than I expected. However, the situation in the north will only get more chaotic. Even if I do nothing, the Central Plains will be very satisfied. Shuangshi raised her eyebrows, saying in surprise, The Central Plains plan is about to succeed? Wanyin nodded. Soon, once it succeeds, the world situation will change completely. The human race may surpass the demon race for the first time, and the era of human prosperity will arrive. Shuangshi could not believe it and laughed. Gold ranked rank 10 strength, is the limit of what the real world can contain. The 9 aristocratic families of the Central Plains have found a way to open a huge barrier to cover the entire Central Plains, forcefully changing the limits of the real world. From now on, the legendary goo masters in the Central Plains can use their legendary strength as they wish. 1. Ian emphasized, only human legendary goo masters can use their legendary strength as they wish. This means that the demon race will lose all their advantages in the Central Plains and will face expulsion and extermination. The Central Plains will become a forbidden area that the demon race cannot touch. Shuangshi sighed. To carry out this heaven-defying act, the 9 aristocratic families of the Central Plains are ruthless, causing chaos in the north and causing the Lin and Huang clans to fight. The humans in the north will become the demon race's meal, thus successfully diverting the demon race's attention. Wan Yin smiled proudly. Yes, by the time the demon race comes back to their senses, the situation in the Central Plains will have been settled. This is crossing the sea by deception. Shuangshi looked at the paper and asked, "Then what's next?" Wan Yin swept the brush across Shun Lian's name and said, "This Shun Lian is too dangerous. We have to think of a way to get rid of him." Shuangshi muttered, "If Shun Lian really unifies the North and becomes the next king of the North, all your plans will be disrupted." Wan Yin sneered, "Why must he be the king of the North and not me?" The reason why I spent so much effort to help the 9 aristocratic families of the Central Plains create chaos in the North is to become the master of the North. Right now, the aristocratic families in the North are falling like rain. Only family Huang is a threat to me and needs to be eliminated. Shun Lian, who suddenly emerged as a new force, also needs to be eliminated. As for the sex, the inherent nature of the inheritance will only allow them to dominate a region. After I become the king of the North, I will slowly recruit them. Shuangshi said, "Family Huang and Shun Lian do not know your intentions. The mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. Why don't you let them fight first?" Wan Yin chuckled. "Otherwise, why do you think I sent 2 Lai Gu to the Huang sisters? It's time to use this chess piece, Suilin of Goguryeo. Everything is under my control." Shuangshi gave a thumbs up and said in shock, "You sent out the 2 Gu of Lies a year ago. Could it be that you were waiting for this day? Could it be that you already predicted that Shun Lian would defeat Ingmuyu?" "I was just preparing for a rainy day." Wan Yin sighed and dipped his brush in ink, saying slowly, "Even if Shun Lian is killed by Ingmuyu, I will still send Lai Gu to the Huang sisters. I had originally planned to use family Huang to sweep the north and subdue Suilin of Goguryeo. Then I will control family Huang and preside over the situation." Shuangshi nodded. "The 9 aristocratic families of the Central Plains are your strong backing. With their support and your strength, family Huang can only submit to you." Wan Yin wrote the words Renzu sect on the paper. Don't forget there is still Renzu sect. Renzu sect is spreading wantonly in the north, forming a force that cannot be underestimated. What is even rarer is that they have been keeping a low profile. Their ambitions are not small. Shuangshi said solemnly, "Renzu sect will surface sooner or later, but you have already placed many chess pieces in Renzu sect. This is also a preparation for a rainy day." Wan Yin laughed and took a deep breath, writing down the words demon race, and then wrote down Xiao Du and Tian Du, showing an unfathomable expression. Shuangshi was surprised. "I know Xiao Du, the commander of the demon army." "Who is Tian Du?" Wan Yin sighed. "They're from the demon race's sacred land, Snow Demon Mountain, and they're the most dangerous monsters in the demon race. Xiao Du has already been exposed, and Tian Du, he is Krite." Shuangshi exclaimed, "The one whose nest was attacked by Shun Lian." Wan Yin nodded. "That's him. This demon is called Tian Du, a name given by Snow Demon Mountain. He is an unfathomable monster. This is why I asked you to pay close attention to Jin Rinyu.